PlayStation Showcase rumors, the bizarre state of Xbox, and a trail of broken games. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 281 of the It's Obvious podcast. My name's Garrett Drake, and I'm joined online, as always, by the illustrious, the brilliant, the chiseled, the gorgeous, Jacob Alka. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, Garrett. How are you?
I'm well. That was take two of that intro because you were muted the first time.
Yeah, I said something completely different the first time too, and we'll never be able to go back and see. In fact, I don't even remember what I said.
Like tears in rain. It's good to see you, Jacob. I'm glad we're doing this again so soon after the previous episode. And this one's pretty meaty. We got some fun topics to talk about, and everyone came through with some amazing questions that are both great for what we're talking about and also just really fun ones for AskIOG. So we're stoked about 281. Good to be back. And I'm happy to be alive, Jacob. We were talking before we started rolling that, how we doing? Like the usual rigmarole, and we're talking to each other. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've been in a state of existence, not unhappy, not depressed, not sad, just going with the flow, And the podcast here this evening on Monday, May 8th, 8:25 p.m. in Atlanta, Georgia is a spark of joy for me to be here with you tonight.
One of the few good things of a Monday, if I'm being honest. Mondays are very Monday for me, if that makes sense.
It's interesting because almost any day of the week could be my Friday, depending on my work schedule, because it's different every week. But I still have that Monday dread that was drilled into me as a young child that I don't think I'll ever recover from.
Yep. School will do that to you.
It's very difficult for me to truly enjoy Sundays as well. Even if on Monday I have nothing to do.
Yep.
I
completely agree.
Feel kind of weird on Sundays to this day.
Yeah. There's like that dread of like as it gets into the evening, you're like, here we go again. Yeah. Another week.
Top Gun from the top.
But how have you been besides work and games? Anything exciting in your life? Anything
Nothing necessarily exciting.
Nothing?
Grateful to be working still, of course, in a ever-increasing, unpredictable future for the state of the United States economy. So, interesting road ahead, but country's been through it many times before. Hopefully this won't be as abysmal as it has been in the past, but work is steady, thankfully, and surrounded by great people in my life. Thankful for them. Wonderful family and friends. So I really have nothing to complain about, Jacob.
It's good.
Grateful for every day. Every breath I take is a gift, and I recognize that. And in the midst of all, the daily necessities of life, I'm grateful that we've had amazing video games this year. Talked about a lot last week. I'm going to talk about more this week. And I'm excited about it, Jacob. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Spent the weekend babysitting my roommate's dog. So just tried to take her on some walks, play with her a little bit, more than I usually do. Just because I know Friday night, keep banging my desk, I need to stop doing that. Friday night, she was like, I could really tell that she was missing my roommate. And I was like, I feel bad. So Saturday, I spent the whole day trying to make her not miss him as much. And I think I succeeded because she didn't bark at all the second night. I just hung out with her all day, gave her attention.
That's very kind of you, Jacob.
I'm somewhat of a saint.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
You certainly have the eyes of a saint.
Oh, thank you, Garrett.
It's the body of a Greek god.
You never fail to flower me in compliments, and I'm very grateful
the skin of a newborn baby. Your skin has never aged.
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't just stroke myself sometimes, and not where you would think I mean when I say that.
Well, why not there?
Well, sometimes what have you been playing, man?
That's okay, Jacob. I've stroked you a lot in my day, and I totally get it. It's a pleasurable experience every time. You know where I've stroked you, Jacob. We've mentioned it on this podcast.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm actually probably due for a good stroking here in the near future. Perhaps we can set up another dinner and movie date. What did we see? Oh, yeah, we saw Evil Dead Rise recently.
Yeah, we did.
Was that before or after the podcast that we recorded?
I think it was after.
I think it was, because I don't remember talking about it on the podcast.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe we did.
Let's talk about that for a second. How'd you feel about that movie? You said you were kind of mixed on it.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It was kind of entertaining. Like, if I was going to rate it on a scale, so I don't have to talk as much. I would say it's maybe a 6.5 out of 10.
That's fair.
It gets like a half point because it was like funny. it was like I kind of had a good time and I kind of didn't. Like a part of me like enjoyed it a lot and like it was funny, and you know, some of the scenes were, or the moments were fun. But then like another half of me is like, this is just a complete waste of time. Like I didn't gain anything from this, you know?
Yeah.
This is just like,
that's Evil Dead for you.
It's just like brutal, you know, messed up horror.
Yeah, it's just pure violent chaos for an hour and a half, and then you go home.
Exactly.
You go home fulfilled by the violence and agony.
In fact, I think you went to church the next day.
I did, yeah. Actually, only a few short hours after that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a longtime Evil Dead fan, have been since high school when I first saw the original, I guess you could call it the original trilogy, the Sam Raimi trilogy with Evil Dead 1 and 2 and Army of Darkness. Great movies to this day. I think they're timeless, personally. But always loved those, and I thought, I think it was Fede Alvarez that did 2013's sort of like spiritual successor reboot to the original. That is still phenomenal. I really dig that movie. Like completely different tone from the original trilogy. It takes itself very seriously, but it works, and that's a great time. And interestingly, Rise, I didn't watch a full trailer ever. I'd only seen stills from the movie intentionally because I like going into movies like this. I want to be as surprised as possible. Really, any movie or TV show, most games these days as well, because so much is so easily spoiled. But I thought it was interesting that this one also continues the mostly serious tone from 2013. And I'm trying to remember the director's name. I think it's Lee Cronin. That's his name. I'm following him on Twitter now because I really liked his style. And the more BTS I've seen and the more he's sort of spoken about his philosophy behind directing this one, I've come to enjoy it and appreciate it more. But I didn't expect it to be sort of a mixed tone between 2013's brutal, serious intensity and also sort of the fun of the original trilogy, because it's mostly serious and intense, and it's extremely tragic. I won't spoil anything specific from the movie, but this family breaking apart due to this demonic possession that just ends in utter tragedy. But that's hardcore, and there's a lot of serious family issue scenarios that play out that are really sad and intense, but there's also a lot of goofy moments that reminded me much of the original trilogy that I also appreciated. So it was a weird tonal balance that I feel like it works mostly, but it is kind of off-putting because it's very difficult to ride the line between two stark differences in tone. But that being said, I was thoroughly entertained by it. There's a couple new moments we hadn't seen before. I love the new setting. I like the idea of the family dynamic versus like the teenagers in the log cabin in the woods. It's been done a bunch. I think after this one, it'd be cool to see them go a more fantasy route that Army of Darkness had. If they don't bring back Ash Williams, I'd like to see them go even crazier than 2013's and now Evil Dead Rise. I think we have a good middle chapter of the Evil Dead franchise. I think they should just go over the top again with the next one, who I think Lee Cronin's probably directing again as well. It's what it seems to be the case on Twitter. But all that said, I'm glad it's succeeding greatly at the box office, because originally it was going to release on HBO Max and not go to theaters, but it did, and it's made its budget back and then some, because I think they shot it for less than 30 million. I want to say it was like 15 to 20, if I'm not mistaken. It's made well over 100 now, so that's a huge profit. Wow. Obviously.
That's huge.
So it's really cool, just the success of it. Love the practical effects, love the music, and just really dug it. I'd say for me, it's probably like a 7.5 out of 10. Really entertained by it. Definitely not my favorite out of all of them, but I think it's a worthy entry in the series. And mostly, I'm glad that you and I got to go together, Jacob. So thanks for taking time out of your evening to have a gruesome evening with me.
Of course. And we had some Chick-fil-A. Can't forget that.
Oh, yeah. Jacob and I ran all over the south side of Atlanta trying to find food that night, because there was, I think it was night 1 or 2 of the Taylor Swift concert. There was also a festival going on, and there was something else happening. It may have been an Atlanta United game or something. I can't remember. But all those things, 3 things happening simultaneously. Every restaurant we went to was either completely slammed, and we were kind of had a tight window of times we left too late. So we ended up driving all the way to Decatur. If you're from Atlanta, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's like a good 20 minutes outside of where Jacob and I live. And landed at a Chick-fil-A of all places, and that was not our first choice. And I love Chick-fil-A, but we wanted this like amazing pizza. If you live in Atlanta or you live anywhere near, if you come to town, go to Lloyd's Pizza. Is an awesome place. But that's kind of relevant to one of our questions later, actually. Jacob, I guess you can't see the sunset right now. I'm not trying to go off topic, but the sunset is so beautiful over the city right now.
That's great, man.
It's very pink and orange. Anyway, went to Chick-fil-A. Jacob tried the frosted lemonade for the first time.
Yeah.
What's your review on that? You had one sip.
I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It's pretty top notch.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. You know what? Fan. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
Thanks, Jacob.
Because they told me to have a nice day. That? Yes.
Yeah, I figured.
They influenced me.
Yeah. Well, you're the influencer now. Whoever hasn't tried Chick-fil-A frozen lemonade is going to go try it now because you give it a 9 out of 10.
Tell them Jacob sent you.
Yeah, tell them. But yeah, it was a fun night, and I'm glad Jacob and I can still see each other because we live closer than ever. And we need to take advantage of that, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I think unless there's something crazy you're wanting to share, I think we've covered how we're doing. You want to jump into what we've been playing?
No, I don't do crazy. You know me.
Great, let's do it. Excuse me.
Would you like me to go first?
I'd love that, Jacob. Hit me with what you've been playing.
Not much. I've been playing some RE4 remake. I'm in the castle now. I fought the I guess the boss that wasn't in the original. Guys like hurls boulders at you and stuff, or rocks.
Oh, the big troll.
Yeah, I fought him. I think the last thing I did was I think I might have found like the 3 heads for that statue.
Mm-hmm.
And I encountered a lot of the guys that have the things coming out of their heads, and when the guy rings the bell or he plays a flute or something, they go crazy.
Yeah.
Or it might have been a lantern or something. I don't know.
Those guys creep me out, dude, because their design in the remake look a lot like the creatures from The Village.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
A little bit.
Yeah, those guys. I don't want to spoil The Village, but that creature design always kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah, they're they're not fun, but you take them out and you handle them and you move on.
Yeah, that's the last thing you remember doing.
Yes, it is.
Right. That's interesting you say that because I am literally in the exact same place in New Game Plus right now.
Oh wow.
So I'm striving to beat the game. I'm on professional right now, and it's been so far pretty easy with the infinite ammo hand cannon. So I'm just obliterating everything, which is so satisfying.
That makes sense.
But it's my goal to beat it on professional before Zelda releases. And I do plan, I think I really will come back and over time, in between all these big releases, nick away at the platinum on that game because I really, really love it. And even in New Game Plus, still having a blast with it, and there's just so many different ways to enjoy it, a lot of fun trophies to go after, and I think it's worth going for that platinum. And you know my rules, like I only go for a platinum if I'm having a ton of fun in the game, and I'm loving every moment I spend in that game. So over time I will hit the platinum. Preston blew my mind when I talked to him about it, dude. I think the game had only been out for like 2 weeks and he'd beaten it 8 times already.
What?
I was like, what the heck, dude? 8 times is crazy. And he got the platinum easily. But granted, he knows that game, even the remake now, like the back of his hand. But I'm just on playthrough number 2, and I feel like I've been playing it for 10 years. So I can't believe he's played it 8 times is astounding to me.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. But you still digging it?
Yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that, Jacob.
Don't have much to say.
Yeah. What else you been playing?
That's about it.
Oh, okay. No WoW this past week?
Played a little bit. It's so
with your Mythic guild?
Yeah. Well, we're starting out. So the new tier drops tomorrow. So we'll be jumping into the new raid. Probably just start on normal, then go like to heroic, then mythic eventually.
Yeah.
We'll just start on like easy mode just to see the fights, experience it all. Hopefully we clear all the way through it. But what's cool is no one knows what the last boss is. Like they know who he is, but they don't know like any of his abilities. Because like usually you go into like new raids and you can watch videos of people that tested the fights. You can go in and like have a good idea of how a fight's going to be. But for like the last few raids, haven't shown any testing for the last boss of the raid because they want to keep it a secret and make it exciting, I guess. So it's always kind of fun to like jump into that and see it before you start watching a bunch of videos. So it's kind of like you're going into the last fight of the raid blind instead of whole raid. Yeah, it's fun. The whole aesthetic of the raid looks really cool, and it's just gonna be fun jumping into some new content with 20 other people.
Yeah, that's amazing to me that 20 people can coordinate. Is it just someone, is there like a guild leader that sends out a call to action like, yo, we're doing the raid this night?
We have a Discord channel.
Cool.
So we kind of like, they'll send announcements through that, and then, you know, there's voice channels we can jump in and chat with.
Well, what happens if, what happens if only like 18 people can show up? You got to call it off.
It depends. So when we do get to Mythic, which won't be the next few weeks, it'll be maybe a month out. You have to have 20 people, and then when those 20 people, you know, kill a boss, they're locked to that week's save of the instance. So you can't like go to another team's Mythic lockout, is what it's called, which is their progress, because you're locked to the one you did previously. So usually if you have to pug at the beginning of the week, you try to make sure that person can also show up for your other raid nights. And if they can't, then you don't invite them. I mean, sometimes people will lie and just, you know, screw over the group, but yeah, that's why you try not to pug. And that's why you try to have some people on the bench too. But that's kind of hard to sell somebody on. Like, it's got to be someone that kind of wants to raid but doesn't like care that much.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough, man. Because
oh yeah,
I mean, we don't really have writer. And because it isn't like you're just jumping in to do like a strike in Destiny for 30 minutes. I mean, you got to kind of commit to a raid.
Right. I mean, we do 3 hours twice a week, so 6 hours total.
Man, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's actually lifestyle. Tuesday nights and Thursday nights right now.
Man, that's crazy to me. Do you still get... Because the thing about World of Warcraft, I've obviously spent very little time with it. Probably collectively in my life, no more than like 25 hours, which is crazy to say considering how long you've been playing. Mm-hmm. But every time I've jumped into it, there's like this, and again, it's like the Blizzard magic too, the old school Blizzard magic that just kind of washes over you of like this world they've created. There's just something so enveloping about it. And I'm saying that based on minimal time I've spent with it. Do you still jumping in after all these years when like it boots up and the music swells in and like it flashes on your screen? Is there still like a feeling of like deep nostalgia that washes over you every time?
Yeah, a little bit. You know,
or are you like still? Have you just grown so accustomed to it? It's just kind of nothing to you now.
I mean, I'm kind of numb to it. I gotta be honest. Like, I mean, I remember when I used to first start playing the game, and I would like anticipate the load bar like moving across the screen. I'd be like, oh my god, here we go. I'm about to be playing. You know, I'm about to be having the time of my life. But as time's gone on, you know, you just, I mean, I still enjoy the thrill of, you know, the loop of the game, or I wouldn't be playing it. But that's really what drives me to keep playing it. It's not necessarily the nostalgia. But at the same time, I really do like the stories that they put together. And they usually, like this expansion in particular, they've really succeeded in telling some cool stories. There's a lot of dragon stuff. So, you know, I'm a big fantasy nut, so dragons are cool to me. So just cool seeing them in the WoW setting in a more prevalent manner.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, I've been having a good time right now. It's a good time to be playing it.
Sweet. Well, I'm happy to hear that, Jacob. And I'm thrilled that you've reached the mythic status of World of Warcraft. It's kind of a big deal. I'm kind of intimidated by, you know, you're a mythic.
I'm kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal to like 20 other people.
Yeah, seriously. I can tell. You have that presence about you.
And I don't know I don't know anything about these other people. I know some of them a little bit. But, you know, just know them from their skill.
Yeah. What an honor. I'm impressed and proud of you, Jacob.
Thanks, man. It means a lot.
You got anything else you've been playing?
No, that's it.
Cool. I platinumed Jedi Survivor on PS5 shortly after. I think it was like the day after we recorded the last episode, and I've loved every minute I spent with that game. I love it so much. It's so much fun to play that Zach and Andy they're in their first playthrough right now, so we'll hop on. And I've been using Discord on PS5 too, which is pretty cool.
How is that?
So it's cool, but it's also kind of annoying. So the way it works is I could probably do this on my laptop too, but I use my phone. So I'll join the group chat on my phone, and instead of using my phone mic, I can select join on PlayStation 5. And you got to do this whole sign-in process when you first sign up. But once you do it, it's super easy. Just hit join on PS5, and it'll just ding, and you're instantly in it, and you're like headset you use for PlayStation instead of your phone. So it's basically like any other party chat function on PlayStation 5 where you're connected to Discord instead. So we'll hop into a party and talk, and we're all at different points of the game at this point, but we'll talk while we're playing, which is pretty fun. And I've platinumed and done every single thing you can currently do in the game. I've found all the secrets, all the collectibles. So I'm purely just playing through it again for fun, and still loving it. So great game. And yeah, really the only problem is that it launched so poorly, which is a shame because it really is an awesome game that's hard to put down once you get into it. And on PlayStation, it has improved a little bit. I mean, during the review period, there were times where I was like, this is straight up a broken game right now. And thankfully, it was only on one planet. It was on the main planet Kobo, and select areas. I'm running like 18 to 23 frames a second, which is just abysmal. And now if it was a shooter, it'd be like a deal breaker for me. I would have given it a much lower score, but thankfully after the day zero patch slightly improved it just before release, and then they released the other patch several days ago now that also again slightly improved it. Still not perfect, but it's much better than it was. And I think if it had launched without those bugs, it's an easy 9 out of 10 for me. So anyone who played the first game, I think that I said the same thing last week. If you played the first game and have been holding off on Survivor, I say that's definitely wise. Wait until you hear people saying, like, especially depending on the platform, that it's in a great state to play. Absolutely play it because it is so much fun. So that is my latest platinum, and my next will likely be RE4. Apart from that, I randomly jumped into Ghost of Tsushima again.
That's random.
Because, yeah, playing Jedi Survivor, the lightsaber stances reminded me, and have ever since I heard about them, reminded me of the fighting stances in Ghost of Tsushima, which is funny because while I was playing Ghost initially, I was saying, like, this combat is so much fun. I hope Jedi Survivor takes a page out of this game's book and applies it to their game. And I'm pretty certain that's what they did, because that's the thing about Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor that's amazing to me, is that it definitely wears its influences on its sleeve. You got the Dark Souls influence, you have the Metroidvania influence. Those are the two big ones. There's a couple other things, like the set pieces of Uncharted, the traversal of Uncharted, but it has that smoothness of a Respawn game. So it's really an amalgamation of inspirations, but they also make it its own with their own style of upgrades and skill trees and exploration. So it really is its own unique identity, inspired by many familiar things. But I'm glad they clearly took a page out of Ghost of Tsushima's book, because the combat is so much more fun in Survivor than it was in Fallen Order. And Fallen Order was solid, but Survivor is just so much more interesting. And so that's what I was like, I kind of want to go back to Ghost because I remember it running remarkably smooth on PS5, the PS5 upgraded version. And also, of course, it's beautiful. So I went back in and immediately got used to how it plays again, and really loved the combat in that game, loved the intensity. It runs a buttery smooth 60 FPS and looks utterly gorgeous. So I played that for a couple hours last night just out of curiosity. But maybe one day I'll platinum that. I think I have like 15 more trophies for it. But still an awesome game, and really stoked to see what Sucker Punch does with the sequel. And on deck for me, probably not for the next at least month while Zelda's out, I downloaded Mordau on Epic Game Store because it was free a couple weeks ago. And that first-person medieval hack and slash games always look fun to me. So I'll mess around in that for a little while. But all that said, Jacob, that brings us into our first big topic of the week. And we have two chunky but awesome questions from some listeners out there that will lead us into our Zelda discussion. First one comes from Tanner Denzo. He says, what are your guys' Zelda plans for this weekend? I took Friday and next Monday off work. Little story for y'all. I didn't play video games hardly from 2011 to 2017, but before that I grew up with games like most 90s kids. I was obsessed with the N64 Zelda games and the Zelda franchise up until Skyward Sword, and then got distracted from gaming in my early 20s by other things. But when Breath of the Wild came out, it was the game that got me back into gaming and listening to gaming podcast. And that's how I discovered you guys back in 2017, and I've been listening since then. So now that Tears of the Kingdom is coming out, it had me nostalgic thinking about that time 6 years ago. Stoked to get to listen to you guys whenever you put out podcasts these days. Love your guys' work and commentary on the industry. Have a great day. Tanner, first of all, thank you so much for that kind message, because it's messages like that and a few others in this episode that are really what encourage us to keep going, because obviously we've been incredibly inconsistent over the last 3 years. We still love doing this, and knowing that there are those of you out there that still enjoy listening, even though we are very sporadic, is highly encouraging, and we greatly appreciate your love and support.
Yes,
that said, Jacob, I'm going to read one more. We're going to kind of put these together for Zelda. Ryan11 Hawk says, "What's good, epic Call of Duty gamers?" It's definitely us, especially me. I've been a fan of the pod since the early days back in 2016, and I've genuinely loved every single episode. You boys have been a consistent part of my life through the last 2 years of high school, college, and as of last June, my first year of marriage. I hope you lovely bastards never stop recording and know that you have dedicated fans who adore your content. With Tears of the Kingdom just days away, I was wondering what your take is on the state of Nintendo's hardware. Myself, as well as many others, assumed that the new Zelda would be a launch title for some sort of new console, or at least a Switch Pro model. But it seems as if Nintendo is trying to squeeze as much life as possible out of the current gen hardware. How long can they keep this up before new games straight up can't run properly? And what are you hoping for out of a new console from Nintendo? All the best, and God bless you both. Ryan, God bless you as well, and honored to hear that you've been listening all this time as well. Greatly appreciate your support, and congrats on your first year of marriage. It's awesome. And yeah, we love you guys. So a lot of excitement about Zelda. We are just days away, Jacob, and I was mistaken in the last episode. I was actually completely blatantly wrong. I thought Zelda was releasing. I think Redfall was a Tuesday release, and I thought Zelda was that following Friday, but it's a whole week later. Yeah. That said, days away from Zelda. First chunk of this is what are our plans from Tanner for the release of Zelda this weekend? You got anything big planned?
I don't have any plans. I'm just gonna go to work like I normally do Friday and Monday. I honestly probably won't even play it that much. I might not even pick it up this weekend, Garrett.
Man, that's really disheartening, Jacob.
A little bit, but it couldn't have come out at a worse time for me. So, are
you busy on Saturday and Sunday as well? Dang, dude.
I'm sorry to hear that. This week.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest releases of the year, man.
I know. I'll probably pick it up. Who am I kidding?
Don't you realize you got to put your whole life on hold for something like this? You got to cut everyone out of your life. You got to quit your job. You got to leave your family. You got to really make some time.
That sounds great. Can you cover my bills?
Yeah, sure, man. I got you. Don't worry. My plans. I'm pretty sure I'm relatively free on at least the first half of Friday.
Nice.
Thankfully. So I'm going to. I will likely, if it's available at between midnight and 3 a.m. I don't think I'll stay up till 3 a.m. if that's the case for the release Eastern time zone, but I'll probably wake up very early Friday morning, make a whole pot of coffee, and just dive back into Hyrule, dude. I'm so excited.
Are you playing on the TV?
On the TV, yeah.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna preload it, make sure everything's up to date, make sure my Pro controller's ready to go. And this will be the most time I've spent with Switch in years. So it's high time to get back into it. And very stoked. Of course, everything we've seen so far is exciting. I'm very interested in it. But I'm hoping there are many surprises that really captivate me and draw me back in. And I really want to get addicted to this game to where I just can't stop thinking about it and don't want to put it down and can't wait to get back to it. Because I felt close to that for Jedi. But it's usually big open world RPG element type adventure games that really draw me in the most like that. And with it being a very similar, obviously exact same art style, graphical fidelity, probably the same exact performance in a definitely upgraded world, but similar to the Breath of the Wild world, there's much I'm hoping for in terms of gameplay elements that they're keeping under wraps. And story is one thing. I mean, I don't ever been too fired up about the story. I watched IGN's recap video, I think, that reminded me of things I'd forgotten, but the story isn't really what I personally go to Zelda for, but I'm sure there'll be parts of that are interesting. But I'm really hoping there's some gameplay stuff that will just blow our minds, kind of how initially Breath of the Wild did. Of course, we've kind of softened to it over the years, but there are some things about Breath of the Wild that really astounded me at the time, like the free climbing and the stamina bar that lets you go anywhere, and like a lot of the interesting physics-based puzzles in the shrines. And of course, they've taken that sandbox to the 10th degree with all the things at your disposal from what we've seen so far. So all that said, I am excited to spend a good chunk of Friday and hopefully a lot of Saturday and Sunday in the game. So I have things to do in between on all those days, but there are windows I'll have to play for at least 2 or 3 hours a day. So I'm stoked about that. That said, Jacob, what are your thoughts on Nintendo's current state of hardware, and what would you like to see from them next? And what are your predictions? I don't want to jump too far ahead, but we're talking about the trail of broken games we've had this year. And I have a strong feeling this game won't be broken on release, but we've already seen even in previews a lot of frame drops. Doesn't surprise me in the slightest considering what you can do in this game. People will find a way to break it, no doubt about it. We will see videos of people breaking this game, but I'm not one of those guys that goes out of my way to try to break a game. So I think we're in for a hopefully not locked 30 FPS, but minimal frame drops on release. Do you have any predictions about Zelda in particular, the state of Switch, and what you'd like to see in the future from Nintendo?
In terms of Zelda, I think maybe I really want to see if when you just skydive back down to the world, like how that looks. Like, how does that perform? I think that's going to be the true test for me to like determine, like, I don't even know what I'm trying to determine. Like, it would just be funny to see, you know, things kind of come and load up, basically. You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be able to handle, like, how good, like, how close are you going to have to be to the world for it to actually load the map? Is what I'm trying to say. And, like, how is it going to look way up in the sky?
There's like 4 billion pop-ins of textures and objects on your way down.
Yeah.
It didn't look like that in the preview. I haven't watched the preview in a while, but we're going to find out soon.
Yeah, I just want to see how that experience performs after doing it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I am very curious to see, like, if people actually could break this game, though. Like, with all the new abilities, and I guess we'll see. I really don't know.
With all those physics going on and manipulating objects, combining objects, freezing time, reversing time, blowing up 1,000 enemies at once on screen, blowing up structures, it's gonna explode a couple of times, I'm sure. But you got to imagine Nintendo, because Nintendo's I can't really remember the last Nintendo game that was like a disaster at launch, but I feel like they'd probably stress test the ever living hell out of this game leading up to release. So hopefully it's in a pretty good spot. But yeah, Switch is obviously old. It's far behind in terms of just technical prowess compared to PS5 and Xbox Series X, especially modern PCs.
It's not a secret to anybody.
Something very loud outside my window right now.
Yeah, you had some sirens going on earlier. It's pretty loud.
It's like some kind of truck driving by. I think I'm good. Yeah, it's pretty old, and I think we were all to some degree hoping that a Switch Pro model or even a new just hardware in general would be, and Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel would be the launch title for that hardware. That's not happening, and there's been rumors of a Switch Pro model and whatever Nintendo's doing next that may or may not be announced later this year. I think with the Switch being such an unbelievable success, they will probably continue with hardware that's very similar to it. I think ideally, dude, I'd be happy with the Switch just 10 times more powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what like the Steam Deck, for example, is one thing, but even like try to go beyond that if you can.
I just don't know if they won't go beyond that. You know they won't. Like, they're gonna like go right up to the standard of that. And they might even cut it short. And that'll be their new console. Like, oh, bigger screen. More
that's the thing about Nintendo, man. Unless something drastically changes for them financially, they have no reason to strive for anything truly remarkable. And that's the thing. It's not like they settle for anything less than excellence, because when the Switch released, it really was an excellent piece of hardware. But they've never really
excellent in some ways.
Try to get ahead of the competition technically. They don't have really a reason to, because their games sell like crazy every single time. Their hardware sells like crazy, and now the Mario movies made $1 billion, and counting. So it's like they really have no reason, because consumers are all about it still.
I mean, they built up that catalog before anybody else did.
Yeah, and that's also, to again not get ahead of ourselves, interesting discussion about some of the things Phil said about having create original games on your console, not moving units. Because you look at the success of Switch, that's purely because of the IP. The success of PS4 and now PS5 is purely because of the IP they've built up. So Yeah, Nintendo has that at their advantage, obviously. But yeah, I would just love a very similar Switch with a gorgeous 4K resolution minimum. And it'd be sweet if they had like a minimum of 120 FPS max, but at least like a 4K 60 FPS performance for their titles going forward would be awesome.
Yeah,
but
that would be nice, but here we are.
Yeah, so
I don't even think.
I really think whatever they do next will be very similar to the Switch because it's amazing. Like as soon as Zelda comes out, dude, I'm taking that wherever I go. I have a few travel dates coming up in the next month or two that is perfect for a game like this, and I've wanted to take my Switch with me.
There you go.
So good timing. But yeah, I'm counting down the days, man. I'm excited to have a new Zelda on release, and my last hope would be that the rumor of having temples in the game would be really chunky, similar to older Zelda titles. And, the shrines in Breath of the Wild are kind of in and out pretty quickly. There are a few that you'll be in there a little while, but you're mostly in and out. I'd love temples that kind of feel like, for example, this is a crazy comparison, but think about the castle in RE4, for example, is a pretty lengthy sequence. I'd love the temples to be at least a couple hours long if you're solving puzzles, fighting bosses, maybe a couple of bosses, and getting a new ability at the end that then takes you to the next place. Kind of like traditional Zelda would be really cool. I want to be like really trapped in a place for a while. Like old school Zelda would be cool.
This is kind of a sidestep, but weren't like, you remember those, like, because in Breath of the Wild, didn't you have temple like things inside these like big animals?
Yeah, those were sort of temple-esque. Those were also not nearly as in depth as temples were. For example, in like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
But those were more in line with that for sure.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was remembering that correctly. It's been a long time since I've played.
Yeah, man. Super stoked. Next on our list, Jacob, is the PlayStation Showcase rumored for May 25th. And I would love if that's the case because there are many things that have been rumored to be the rumors that Sony's going to show off a lot of games at the showcase is supposed to be amazing and blow people's minds. I hope that's true because it's been a while since we've heard from Sony in a big way. And not to be the hashtag not fanboy as usual, but for Sony to have a powerful showcase so soon after a disastrous launch for Redfall in a very odd state of Xbox, it's just going to make them look even better. So that's probably perfect timing for them. Obviously, I highly doubt that was intentionally planned. It just happened to work out that way. But that said, a big rumor that was announced today is that Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater will be the big remake that will be showcased at this event. And that would be cool. I haven't played Snake Eater. I'm actually kind of bummed because I recently finished Metal Gear Solid, the original, and I wanted to jump into Sons of Liberty, the sequel, so bad. I know there's like an alternate version of that too, but I wanted to jump in immediately, and it was just completely inaccessible and everything. I think for me to have played it, I'd have to get an Xbox. It'd have to be the console, and I'd have to get like the physical disc of like the collection they did years ago. And I just didn't obviously want to do all that. So the other rumor is that in addition to the big Metal Gear 3 remake, there will be Metal Gear releases, either re-releases or remasters for all of the games, which would be amazing. I would love if whether it's all individual over time or it's just a collection you can buy all at once. I would buy that in a heartbeat because I'm dying to play through all those games. Wow. And those would be my intermittent games in between all the big releases for the rest of the year. I'd play through a Metal Gear. So, and Metal Gear 1, I know people have said it'd be cool to see Metal Gear 1 remade. And that game, I had a few frustrations just due to its technical limitations at the time, but it's still so impressive given what it is after just considering how old it is kind of amazing. So Metal Gear 1 remake would still be really cool, but longtime Metal Gear fans have said 3 makes a lot of sense as well because in the timeline it takes place before everything else. It's the earliest story and all that. So open to that as well. I would probably hold off on playing it until I could play at least Sons of Liberty before that. But that's a really cool rumor. I hope that's true. And the other wing of that rumor is that, of course, the Silent Hill games are in development and that Sony's worked out some sort of either temporary or fully exclusive deal with Konami to either remake or develop new titles for Silent Hill, Metal Gear, and Castlevania. So that'd be a sweet partnership if it worked out, and I'd love to see it. How do you feel about all that? Do you have any interest in playing any? Because you played Metal Gear Solid 5, didn't you?
Yeah, I play Phantom
Pain. Do you have any interest in playing the others?
It would depend how the showcase of the remake went. I mean, it's been so long since I played Metal Gear, and I'm not like the biggest Metal Gear fan. I'm gonna be honest. It's I mean, Phantom Pain was really really cool, and I enjoyed my experience with it a lot. But it's not necessarily. I don't know. Like I don't look back. You know, it's not like I don't have the same memories of playing that game as I did like Uncharted 4, for example, or Last of Us 2. A lot of Sony games actually. Metal Gear is obviously it's cherished and it's loved by a lot of people in the series, but you know, not like if 3. Like I don't know what it would take for me to actually play Metal Gear 3. Obviously, if they made a completely remake version of the game and it looked and played similar to Phantom Pain, I would probably highly consider it. But I don't know. I'm kind of selective on the type of games that I play nowadays. Like I haven't even played Star Wars. Not that I should have played it yet because it's had a pretty rough launch. But I'm definitely open to it. That's what I'm trying to say. In that word salad.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, ever since Metal Gear 1 and obviously Phantom Pain and recently Death Stranding. I'm about 75% through Death Stranding just based on what I've looked up on the internet, but I do need to go back and finish that at some point because it was one of those games that I was never really like dying to get back to, but every time I got back into it, I really enjoyed it. And I want to beat that before the sequel releases. And there's just something about Kojima's tone and bizarre writing and characters, the mechanics he implements into his games. There's just something about it that's just so interesting to me. And that's why even finishing old school Metal Gear Solid, dude, I was dying to jump into the sequel. So I've heard amazing things about the second game. And yeah, because of that, I'm highly anticipating whatever this. I hope the rumor's true. I feel like it probably is. I feel like 9 times out of 10 rumors we hear these days are usually true. Because it's hard to hide stuff these days with the existence of the internet and social media. So I hope that's the case. I mean, that truck is back again, dude. They must be cleaning the road next to me or something. Other rumor, of course, is that Spider-Man 2 will be shown off. And I've talked ad nauseum about Spider-Man, and I have very high expectations of it. A recent rumor for that, actually, is that they're going to implement a multiverse style mechanic similar to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, where you jump through the portals. I've heard that might be a component of the mechanics in the sequel, which could be interesting.
It's interesting.
So,
that'd be
final
pretty
predictions
wild
for that. Let's say they do show this game off. We're going to get a very strong impression of what it will be like. I do think we will be character swapping, for sure. I still believe that the symbiote is going to wind up on Peter and Miles has to fight him. Because I'm already compelled by the idea of like the kid having to fight his mentor. Like not wanting to, but he has to like defend his family, the city from a evil Peter Parker, essentially. So I think that's one of my big, for at least story beat wise, that's one of my big predictions. I think, of course, you'll build up both Miles and Peter. Not really exactly like GTA style where you're switching back and forth at will. Maybe they'll let you do that, but I almost feel like it'd be based on chapter. Like this chapter, you're Peter Parker. That chapter, you're Miles. I think we'll see a lot of cooperative fighting sequences with them both and story sequences. Kind of like the beginning of Miles Morales. A lot like that. I don't think there'll be online co-op or even local co-op. I don't think Insomniac would do that.
Yeah,
I think there's potential for that to work to some degree, but I don't think we'll see that. I think it'll purely be a single player game.
Yeah.
I also think that, and this is kind of a given, but animations are going to astound us because animations are already beautiful in Spider-Man, but Miles Morales is like, these guys are absolutely killing it because the animations are so beautiful and fluid in that game. Yeah. Animations are going to astound us. They're going to make Peter feel way better than he did in the first game, similar to how Miles feels in the sequel. Even though the web swinging they really did nail in the first one, I still love jumping in and swinging around for fun from time to time, but I think they're even going to take that further and make it even more interesting. I don't know how they're going to do it, But Insomniac has been firing on all cylinders for years now. There's some very, very smart and remarkably talented people at that studio. I really think they're going to do something with web swinging that make it even more interesting than it was in the first 2 games. And lastly, I think graphically it's going to blow our minds too, because PS5 is exclusive to PS5 and it don't have to deal with PS4 anymore. That'll be an upgrade. What was the last thing I was going to say? It will have a performance mode at launch, of course. That will be pretty locked. I don't think it's going to chug. I have a strong feeling Insomniac's going to make that work at launch. Ratchet & Clank was the same way.
Yeah.
And what was my last prediction I had? It was...
you keep saying it's your last one and then you keep going.
Yeah. Like they keep coming to mind because I've thought about this a lot over the last year or two. I can't remember what it was, dude. But yeah, I think it's just really going to blow our minds. I think it's going to, like I said, there will be people that haven't really thought much about it and it's really going to astound them. So
how many Mary Jane sequences will there be?
0 for sure.
0? No way.
Big 0.
No way.
Yep. None of that. I think they got that message loud and clear. That's still so funny to me that they thought that was a good idea.
It wasn't that bad.
I can see in like a room, like a meeting, we're like, we need to make Mary Jane like a great, compelling character in this game. All for that. And even the idea, like just throwing it out there, I can see some people like, what if you played as Mary Jane and had these stealth sequences and it's like really tense and you got to sneak around? Like I can see in some world where that makes sense to have in the game. But when you're playing as Spider-Man, the game is Spider-Man. And that's unbelievably fun. It's crazy to me that they would take you out of that for at least half an hour to crawl around as Mary Jane and get pissed because these guys catch you sneaking behind a box and stuff. It's just crazy to me. That will definitely not be in the sequel.
Garrett, maybe we need Spider-Jane.
Spider-Jane. Maybe Gwen Stacy will be in the game.
Maybe.
If the multiverse thing is true, we're going to see some really cool cameos.
That'll be cool.
So, and this game's coming out presumably only a few months after the Spider-Verse sequel release. It'd be perfect timing. And, Sony really wants to rake in the cash. So that movie releasing then a few short months later. And it makes sense, too, if they announce this game a month or so before the Spider-Verse release, that'll be even more hyped up for the movie's release and then flowing into the fall with the sequel releasing. If it's a multiverse-style story, that would just really work financially, I think. There's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't like using this word often, but it makes sense here. Man, what is it? We shot this show last year where this guy said it 100 times and it drove me crazy. It has something to do with syncing. I can't remember what it is. It's funny. Every time I edit these podcasts, I remember while I'm editing, but I can't remember right now. But I think just business-wise, creatively, that makes a lot of sense to me. Those are all my final predictions for Spider-Man. And it's going to be hilarious if we don't see it at all at the showcase, all that said.
There's probably a chance we don't see it at all. I predict we don't see it at the showcase.
Yeah. I think at the very least, we will see a teaser trailer. A new teaser trailer, at the very least.
Okay.
At most, a gameplay demo. Similar to the E3 announcement initially, where there's like a mix of trailer and gameplay in it.
Yeah. I think you will be able to freely switch between the two, like when they're together. I think there might be points in the story where someone's off doing something else, or like things take place at the same time, so you can't like swap to the other. But I think you'll be able to just seamlessly switch between the two. Unless it's a story-specific mission. I think there might be missions where they're together, and there's other missions where they're, each doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
Which would make sense. That's how I would want it to be anyway.
Yeah.
And their kits can't be too different. Because they kind of need to have the same control scheme, obviously. So I wonder, like, how they would customize, like, I don't know how they would do it, but I'm excited to learn how.
Same. Yeah.
I guess we don't know for sure.
Venom powers too that differentiate him.
Yeah. Do we even know for sure if they're both going to be in the game?
Yeah. They're in the initial teaser trailer with Venom. Remember, they're fighting in the street together, and Venom is in the alleyway.
I actually don't remember that. No.
Yeah. That's the initial teaser.
Maybe I can watch that.
Last prediction: they're going to kill Peter Parker at the end of this game.
No shot.
Maybe even Miles kills him.
No way.
Miles either has to kill him or Peter Parker sacrifices himself to get rid of the symbiote or something. But I think that's a bold move. I like that this is another random example, but I like that The Last of Us 2 is a very bold take on the progression of that story and those characters that clearly did not satisfy everyone, but I respect it even more because it's so bold. So I'd like if Insomniac was given the grace from Marvel to kill Peter Parker and Miles Morales as the main character of a potential third game. Topher Grace is going to get his prayer answered from Spider-Man 3. I want you to kill Peter Parker. So, and I'd be open to that, dude. Because I think we have a great, like almost, I'd say currently the perfect Spider-Man game with Marvel Insomniac Spider-Man 1. You get a whole game with Peter. You get even more of them in Miles Morales. You'll get a whole second game with Peter and Miles. I'd honestly be okay if they killed Peter Parker and had Miles be the lead with whoever else in the third game. I'm down for it, dude. I'm saying it right now. And I love Peter Parker, but I think it'd be a bold move if they killed him.
It would be. Certainly not the safe move.
Way too long about Spider-Man. That's my fault. I apologize.
No worries.
I'd also hope to see another tease from Naughty Dog and their multiplayer Last of Us universe game. I have high hopes for that as well. Yeah, we're waiting a long time for that. Presumably coming sometime next year, but I'd like to see that. And really just anything we're overlooking from either first-party studios or even third parties that are kind of contributing to this showcase. But I really just want to see like really cool-looking new games because someone who's been quiet for a while, which I think is a good thing, but it's time to show some stuff off because I think everyone's anticipating what is the future of PS5 because we've kind of been sitting on these consoles mostly playing third-party games, but there have been some great exclusives, but just very sparingly over the last couple of years. So I hope the rumors are true that this is going to be a mega showcase that gets everyone stoked. That's all I have left to say, Jacob, on that. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I do not.
All right, next topic. Let's do it. Riff Rider writes in on Twitter and says, I honestly think you guys should just dedicate the entire episode on how much of a disaster Xbox is right now.
True.
Hashtag not fanboys. And Matthew, forgive me if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. Is it Matthew Lenaw? That's my first guess. Forgive me if that's wrong. He says,
why do you gotta say his last name on air? Why you gotta do him like that?
Well, I mean, on Instagram, it was his full name, so. He didn't mention I couldn't say his last name. He says, do you think Arcane and Microsoft knew Redfall was a failure and released it between Zelda and Star Wars in hopes that it would be overshadowed? I want to start with that one because interestingly today, as of recording this episode, there's a rumor floating around that Xbox did know Redfall would be a complete catastrophe. Now, determining to release it in between Zelda and Star Wars could certainly be the case because it will obviously be mostly forgotten between the hype of Zelda's release. Obviously, Star Wars has been a big topic over the last couple of weeks, but all the games coming shortly thereafter over the subsequent months, it would have been eaten alive by anything else probably this year. I mean, they could have maybe thrown it into like late July or I don't know, like late September maybe. But at that point, if they knew the game was, and that's the thing about Redfall, I haven't played it. I'm not going to play it based on all the reviews I've seen. I've seen plenty of gameplay, plenty of commentary, plenty of reviews to know I will not enjoy that game, even if I played it.
Looks bad.
And no matter what they did between now and let's say later in the fall, that game would probably still suck. Let's say it's the exact same game, 0 bugs. It would probably still suck. So that game just needed to go out, just get it out the door. And that's the thing about social media is that everything's constantly flowing and like even crazy news stories get overshadowed within a few days, a couple of weeks, depending on what it is. So I think Redfall is obviously a hot topic now because it's just another like kicking them while they're down with Microsoft after the I can't remember what the I can't remember what the acronym is for the British side that blocked their deal.
CMA.
But after, I think it's the CMA blocked their deal, and then Redfall has a disastrous launch, just like kicking them when they're down. I think it's more of a relevant topic now, just because Xbox is in such a weird state. But I think by the time Zelda's out and Diablo and Final Fantasy, everything else that's coming, I think it will easily be forgotten. Which is a shame for Arcane, because Arcane is a great studio, and it is strange that I know they have two different. I mean, it's Arcane's Arcane, but they have two different studios, one in Texas, one in Leon, I think. Yeah. So it is strange that a game would come out like this and launch this poorly and just be kind of like a bad game. Yep. And I've seen a couple of Arcane developers kind of taking shots at Microsoft and something else about, I don't know what the political side of that game is and like why it was developed and why those ideas came to life, but it's a shame because on paper, the idea of an open world vampire hunter game where you're playing with buddies that have special abilities and unique weapons and like a Massachusetts town sounded really cool to me. The initial announcement trailer had me pretty interested, but just over time seeing bits and pieces of it, there was never anything that impressed me. And obviously now after release, it is not great, which sucks. And I'm kind of in the camp with this release, and we kind of talk about Phil's interview on Kind of Funny now, is that I'm also in the camp where I just hope that every game that releases is awesome because I love video games. I want to play as many great games as possible. I mean that sincerely, regardless of the platform.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's a bummer. I really do mean that. That's why I have all access to all three right now: Game Pass and PC, obviously Switch, PS5. I just want to play fun video games, and it's a shame when a game comes out and it sucks, especially from a notable studio like Arcane. And it's one thing when a game comes out like I'm brain farting right now. What's that? CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk. Excuse me. Cyberpunk comes out riddled with bugs. After all said and done, that really is a solid game. It's a great game, actually. The only stain on their reputation being they launched it way too early. That was bad. But it's one thing to launch a game that's both buggy and just a really boring, bad game. So whatever Arcane does next really has to blow people's minds. Will likely be a Dishonored sequel. I think that'd be the safest bet for them as a studio. Just do what they do best. And I know, myself included, I'd love a third Dishonored game. So that'll probably be what the case is. But let's focus on Redfall first. What are your thoughts on its bad launch, Arcane, and what it means for Xbox? What are your thoughts on all that?
I think it's embarrassing. I think it's a poor leadership. I mean, I can only make assumptions. I mean, I have no idea what happened, why Microsoft decided to release it now. I mean, I think the first thing that I think of is just like who was steering the ship to let this game be developed this long and then to come out the way it did. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe they just were at a point where they needed to move on to something else because they were just burning too much capital on this game and it wasn't amounting to anything. So, and now that I even think about it, like I might sound like really negative here, but that genre, like that style of game has never really appealed to me. I've never been a big Left 4 Dead person. Like I'm not a big like co-op survival type of person. Like that's never been a huge genre for me. So even what like I thought the game initially looked cool just because of the aesthetic and like, you know, because we don't have a whole lot of vampire games. So I just thought, you know, this is kind of a cool new idea. But it's just really disappointing that it launched like this. So I think a lot of people were looking forward to it. And Xbox really needs a W right now. And I feel like they haven't had one in quite a while. And all these, like they bought all these studios several years ago now. And most of them
still nothing to show for it.
Yeah, we just, like, where's the IP that Xbox gamers were promised? I feel like they're still just waiting on that. And meanwhile, we were talking about earlier, Sony and Nintendo are killing it. Like they have great IP already. Sony building theirs up more recently, over the last 2 generations for sure. I think Microsoft is really just playing catch up still, and it shows. They got a long way to go.
Yeah. It's the thing about Redfall is that, at least based on reviews I've seen and what I've watched in gameplay, is that it doesn't have a true identity. It's kind of a mix of Destiny elements, Left 4 Dead elements, Far Cry elements, and all of that just doesn't work cohesively very well.
Yeah, I heard that it was a looter shooter. Is that true?
Pretty much, yeah. You're looting a lot in that game. And that's what reminded me is that, although I haven't played much Destiny in the last few years, Bungie have really figured out the looter shooter and really made it work very well. I mean, pretty much everything Bungie's ever done has been very good. I mean, obviously, it's all been like shooter related, but everything they do is very good. Even if it takes them a while to figure out Destiny, like Destiny's in a place where that game just functions very well. And any company or studio that's tried to mimic Destiny's success has pretty much failed for the most part. Many games have tried to take Destiny's route of the looter shooter and come and gone, or have just been kind of a very like not a big success ultimately. So it was just reminded me of how great Destiny is now, how seemingly difficult it is to replicate that. So it's not obviously a Destiny clone. There's just inspirations in there. But that said, interestingly, Phil Spencer, this blew my mind that he did this, but went on to Kind of Funny, I think a couple of days after Redfall's release, and did a very candid, sincere interview on his thoughts of Redfall's release, the state of Xbox, their plans for the future, and their strategy. And there's a lot in it. I recommend going to listen to it if that even remotely interests you, because it's a really fascinating interview. And there are a lot of different perspectives on it. Some people are saying he's just trying to save face. Some people are saying he's downplaying Xbox because he wants the CMA to like reconsider their block and everything. So there's a lot of different ways to interpret it. But there are a few quotes that a lot of people have really been dissecting. And it's difficult to really nail down exactly what he means by them, because he's saying one thing, it could mean something else entirely. I'm actually surprised, just based on all the commentary and articles and videos that have come out of people either criticizing or responding to what he had to say. I'm surprised he hasn't come out and clarified a few things he said, because there are a few things he said that are kind of confusing. But some of the big ones are, and this is making the rounds a lot, is that he said, and this isn't the exact quote, you have to forgive me, but he says, if Starfield comes out and it's an 11 out of 10, it doesn't mean people are going to start selling their PS5s to buy an Xbox to play that game. And he continued and said, even if we start putting out great games on Xbox, it isn't really going to move units. There's no way we'll ever catch up to Sony and Nintendo. And people have criticized that and saying, well, it isn't really about people selling their current hardware to jump to Xbox. It's more about like compelling people to want an Xbox as well to play original IP and exclusives. And I think that may have been what he was trying to say, but instead of saying like, you want to get an Xbox in addition to what you're playing, he said, no one's going to want to sell their PS5 and Switch to come to Xbox, even if we make a bunch of great games. So I would have rather him said, I want a reason to buy a Series X. Now, everything I play on PC, once the bugs are all taken care of, is usually a great experience. I don't have a reason to have an Xbox, but I would totally pick up an Xbox if they had all these banger single-player great exclusives to play, but they don't right now.
I mean, the biggest problem is that day one they shot themselves in the foot by allowing exclusives to be on PC as well.
Yeah,
like you're not going to sell more Xboxes that way.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, that's a big challenge for them. Plus, Game Pass is an awesome deal, and a lot of these big games, including Redfall, now release day one on Game Pass. And if you don't have Game Pass, it's $70 a pop, of course, but that'll include Starfield. But the Game Pass model is really what their focus is, and because of that, they don't sell many copies of games. I hear all kinds of mixed reports on what that means for studios, and that it's impossible to truly sustain over time, that it's sort of stagnated lately. And a lot of that's because they haven't been releasing games consistently. That's another point of conversation with Redfall's release, is that they had to release it now because they want to maintain subscriptions on Game Pass. And Redfall was meant to be that motivation for people to stay subscribed, to try it out.
Or they intentionally sabotaged the game so that the European CMA, or is it British? I think it's just Britain. I don't know what the CMA, what countries have jurisdiction over it. It might be like the whole EU. I don't know. Anyway, what if they're intentionally like making themselves look vulnerable, so that they'll be like, they're not that. They need Activision. They need this so that they can get back up on their feet and compete with Sony. That's what's happening here, Garrett.
Yeah, no, that's what people said. Phil was very careful about some of the things he said, and that's meant to be quotes that will help him out in negotiating the deal over time. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. So, especially saying things like, we'll never catch up to Sony and Nintendo, no matter how many great games we put out. So we have to buy Activision. We're screwed without them, is basically what he's trying to say.
I think that's a fair read.
Yeah, all that said, another interesting thing he said after this interview a few days later is that they haven't entirely fused, basically, with ZeniMax. So they are, yes, they own Bethesda, but they haven't entirely worked out how they're going to negotiate and overlook games. Apparently, they've really taken a close look at Starfield over time and have claimed they've worked alongside Bethesda game studios to make sure that's going to be a great release. I hope that's true, dude, because like we said last week, I really want to be compelled and love Starfield. And I hope it isn't a disaster at launch like Redfall, but that's really interesting to hear that after all these years, they still haven't totally combined with ZeniMax to oversee the development of a lot of Bethesda's IP. And that begs the question, and I'm surprised he said that, dude, because if they want to acquire Activision and all of their studios, how long is it going to take them to work out situations with all of them and manage all of them?
Yeah.
Because it's already a bad look.
It's going to take for them to get rid of Bobby Kotick.
I know, it's already a bad look that Redfall launches so poorly, and they claim like, oh, we didn't really take a good look at it, and like it's kind of we weren't, like focused on it, and that's why it launched poorly. Like, that's just not a good thing to admit, dude, because like if you're going to manage even more studios, you got to do a better job than that. So
it depends how you look at it, though. A lot of people might, look at this and be like, it was really cool of him to come on to a channel that generally supports Microsoft, especially that show that they do. I think it's an Xbox show. I don't watch it, but it looked like it was. And I think a lot of people like respected like him coming out and saying that after it did so poorly.
Totally.
Made him
I do as well. I mean, that blew my mind that someone at his level would take time to jump on. Not kind of funny. It's not small, but isn't it like they're like CNN or something? Like jumping onto a podcast to have a candid conversation like that really blew my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, that said, it's just crazy that Xbox is in this place where since the Xbox One generation, they've just really struggled to do anything truly remarkable. And they really do have great studios under their belt that just haven't really done much of anything over the last 2 generations. There's so much potential for everything that's currently in development and everything that previous studios have done. So I just hope that over time, Microsoft will seemingly keep Xbox alive for the foreseeable future, but I can't imagine them pulling the plug on Xbox entirely. But I really hope that Xbox really gets things figured out. And I'm assuming they're going to stay the course with Game Pass. That's what Phil has claimed, but I just really hope these great studios they have start developing amazing games that encourage me to pick up a Series X or, of course, enjoy them on PC, because I just want more fun games to play. I hope Fable's amazing. I hope Starfield's amazing. Hellblade 2.
Gears 9.
Yeah, Gears 6. Whatever they do with Gears. I hope whoever's developing the next Halo game, the rumor is, gosh, I can't remember anything tonight, dude. There's another studio notable that's rumored to be working on a new Halo game. In between 343 that Halo does better stuff in the future. There's so much potential with Xbox that I really hope is figured out. It's just in such a crazy, weird place right now. So it's a shame.
If I only had an Xbox right now and nothing else, I would probably not feel good.
But you know what's funny? Jacob?
What?
Is that there are clearly Xbox players and owners that feel that way, but there are also the Xbox players that are completely oblivious to all of this. And I think of Zach and Andy. They're 2 of the most casual gamers I've ever met in my life, and it's hilarious to me. I know Andy's mostly joking, but whenever I talk about playing anything on PS5, he like immediately starts making fun of it. And it's funny to me because it's one of those scenarios where he has no idea how ignorant he is. He has zero clue. Because to him, it's like, oh, we got Halo, we got Forza. And I think he has this mindset that like any third-party game that releases on Xbox is an Xbox game. And that's why Xbox is the best. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I loved 360. But he doesn't even realize like what he's making fun of. He doesn't realize like the amazing exclusives. He just thinks like PlayStation's lame because it's PlayStation.
It kind of is, though.
yeah, honestly, yeah. But it's like there's probably a lot of players that like don't even realize that. They're like, oh, I got Game Pass, I got like all these games and Halo and Forza, whatever else Halo, people are playing Forza. On Xbox, and whatever else they got. Like that's why Xbox is king, bro.
That's right.
So, but when you dig a little deeper, Xbox could do a lot more, and I'm hoping they do. But we could obviously go way deeper in the Phil interview, but it's cool that he did that. He said a lot of really interesting things that are somewhat questionable. Some things really interesting. Definitely highly recommend listening to it was the Kind of Funny Xcast interviewing Phil Spencer. I imagine if you listen to us or on Twitter or anything, you've seen at least snippets from it or heard about it. So Really good stuff. But yeah, going to be an interesting next. I'd say for the rest of the year, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Xbox. Everyone's banking on Starfield being like the savior of Xbox, and like everything is on the shoulders of Bethesda Game Studios now to keep Xbox alive and people interested in the brand, because that's kind of like the last straw for a lot of people. I think the hardcore Xbox players that are locked in on all of this stuff are really banking on Starfield, and I'm hoping it's great too. So we will know. I guess summertime how it's looking in June for the showcase, and then of course later this year when it releases will be the answer. Jacob's leaving. It's just you and me now. All of you listening out there. Oh, he's back now. What was that?
Huh? I was turning off something.
Oh, okay.
It was like a
Any other thoughts on Redfall and Xbox, Phil Spencer?
No. I don't care about either of them.
Just care about Zelda at this point.
I do. Oh, yeah, you're actually right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the trail of broken games, Jacob. Whether it's on console or especially PC, obviously, there have been many broken releases or broken games on release. It's been a trend for the last couple of years, and I understand the fair argument 2 years ago, almost, I guess 3 years ago now, with COVID being a major problem, the switch between working remotely and navigating that season was very difficult for a lot of studios. For a few releases in the last 3 years are understandable for having issues at launch, but lately, notably with most recently Jedi Survivor and even Last of Us on PC, there are arguments to be had. I know both studios have claimed that PCs have such a complex variety of builds these days that it's very difficult to nail down a perfect performance on every single machine. So I don't know enough on the technical side to say that's true or not. I don't know, but between Jedi and most recently Last of Us releasing in just abysmal states on PC, there have been a lot of speculation. Is it like like investors? Is it their fault because they want to make as much money as quickly as possible? And it's the complication of very long development cycles. Now we're talking like I'd say minimum. I think the shortest development cycle I've heard about for a AAA game in the last few years has been Jedi Survivor, as roughly a 3-year development cycle, which is pretty remarkable. But it's usually like 4 to 5. So you see like Rockstar games like Red Dead was in development for 8 years. I think GTA. We don't know how long GTA 6 has been, or 6 has been in development, but I'm gonna guess probably
That's
over
not
a
a
decade.
good example.
I think it'll be over a decade by the time it releases. Obviously, like GTA 5 literally came out a decade ago, but I bet it's been prototyped for like this past decade leading up to whenever it releases. Hopefully next year. I hope it's next year.
There's no way.
But it's been development for a long time. So some games are development for half a decade. So
I won't believe that game is coming out until I actually see it.
yeah. Well, we'll see. But yeah, long development cycles. So there's thoughts. People say the investors want to make as much money as quickly as possible and get their money back. So they want to get it out the door as soon as they can, even if it's even slightly close to being ready. They want it out the door. And there's been that supposed excuse these days that, well, since you can update games after they release and people keep buying them, like, who cares? Just get it out the door so we can start making our money back and we'll fix it later. So very few games launch in a complete state with minimal bugs these days, and it's beginning to frustrate a lot of people, myself included. Thankfully with Jedi, I didn't ruin my experience, but if I jumped into Last of Us on PC for the first time, I would have been so frustrated, dude, because it's a $70 game, and if it's that rough, dude, and of all studios to mess up that bad being Naughty Dog is really surprising to me.
Yeah.
So it's just a bummer that it keeps happening, and I know it's worse for some people depending on platform, but it begs the question of what the rest of the year will look like. I think it's safe to assume. I think Final Fantasy is going to launch very well. I think Spider-Man will launch well. I think Diablo will be pretty strong because they've had a lot of betas, thankfully, leading up to it.
No, Diablo 3 was a mess. So
we'll see. It's hard to say. It is really like so unpredictable these days. But
I mean, I think the biggest thing with Diablo 4, it's going to be like big, like queues to get into the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be like a lot of like people getting disconnected and they have to start all over. It's going to piss a lot of people off. That's what happened in the beta.
Yeah. Hopefully most of that's resolved. Hopefully it isn't as bad as the beta was.
Blizzard always has a way of
the stories about the beta. RE4 launched pretty well on all platforms. It wasn't remotely bad on any platform, so it's still possible to release a finished game.
Now that you mention it, every Resident Evil has had a pretty good launch. They've all been pretty good in my experience.
Yeah.
I played the except 3.
Maybe the RE engine is just really rock solid.
That's got to be what it is.
So, and another thing about Jedi, dude, is that going back to Ghost, it was crazy to me how, granted, Ghost has been out much longer. They've resolved any bugs they may have had, but that game runs so smooth and looks beautiful. And Jedi is technically a much smaller game than Tsushima because it's hub worlds. Now, Kobo, the big planet, is a big planet for sure. But all the other planets are much smaller and it's all broken up. It isn't like it's one big open world and that game is chugging and like the graphics look fuzzy and it's like, what's going on? And I think Ghost of Tsushima, I don't know what engine Sucker Punch uses, but I know Jedi's on Unreal 4. And Unreal generally is pretty strong with a lot of releases. So it's just really surprising to me that granted, if they had several more weeks, maybe they wouldn't have this problem. It's just, I always feel bad for developers when their games get released when they're clearly not ready. It's a very challenging year too, like we said last week, because there's huge games coming out before Jedi, after Jedi. There really wasn't a clean window for them to release any other time this year, maybe late this year, but we still don't know exactly what's coming beyond fall. So it's just a really sucky situation when developers have to deal with that. But it's been a trend for a while, Jacob. How do you feel about it? Predictions for the rest of this year. What do you think a possible solution could be? I know we're not business guys. We're not really heavily invested on the tech side, but what are your overall thoughts about these broken games that keep releasing?
I think if anything, people should stop pre-ordering games. I think that's the best line of defense you can have.
I don't even know if pre-orders are a big thing now. It's even just people buying them straight up day one is still a problem.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, okay, wait for reviews, then make your decision. That's something that I started to do a lot, and it's saved me a few bucks, I gotta say. Not that I play like every game like I used to. I used to play a lot more games, but nowadays I only maybe play a few handful single player games a year. So that probably has something to do with it too. But I don't know. It's so hard, like, because these companies, they spend so much money on like promotions and trailers, and streamers get to play the game like 2 days early, so you tune in and want to see how the game is. Like, there's always all this hype around every big release, and like they compel you to want to pre-order and play the game right when you can, as soon as possible. And you know, more times than we like to admit, the games are just broken or buggy, or definitely not worth, in a lot of cases, $70 for what they're charging nowadays. And it just, I know it's getting to the point where it's happening with, if not every game, then like every other game, it feels like. There's only a handful of games that really come out, and I mean, there are some companies when they release a game, or studios, you're like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be like a pretty good product. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure most Nintendo games, I mean, they're on the Switch, but you know what you're getting with a Nintendo game. Most Sony games nowadays are pretty safe bets in terms of, you know, they show off a lot of gameplay. They show, you know, they pretty much tell you how it is, and they have the pedigree to back it up. So I never really feel bad about pre-ordering a Sony game, but I mean, there are a lot of games out there that I just, like, anything from EA. Usually I remember when I bought that latest Battlefield, and I played it like one day, and then I returned it like after like 20 minutes or something. Like, it was horrible, and I knew I never wanted to play that game again, and I didn't want to support it. So I was like, here, get this out of my library. I want my money back, please. But it's just sad. I wish, you know, the industry wasn't like this, but I mean, I don't really know where we go from here. Like, what's it going to take? Because people are still buying these games left and right. Like, or otherwise, you know, they wouldn't launch them like they are if they weren't making money from them. maybe it just takes a bunch of Redfalls for these companies to realize, oh, we can't do this. But I mean, Redfall might just be a weird stepchild. It might just been they need to get that game out the door, and they need Arcane Austin to work on something else because that wasn't being fruitful. I don't know, man. That's sort of my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm pretty much feeling the same. I think especially now the trend has continued to the point where people will be a little more careful about what they spend their money on, myself included. I mean, I'm not going to immediately. I think Starfield would be a big one for me. I'm going to definitely wait for reviews on that, not just preload it or anything. I'm going to preload Zelda because I feel like Nintendo's track record has been pretty strong with releases, so I'm not too worried about that one. But I will likely wait for Final Fantasy, Diablo. What am I forgetting? That's also coming out. Am I forgetting anything this summer?
I mean, there are a lot of games.
Yeah, those are two big ones I can remember, but I won't. I will only pick those up day one if the reviews don't mention crazy bugs or any broken aspects of it. So I have no problem these days waiting 24 hours, 48 hours, even a week or longer. There haven't been too many games I've waited on recently, but yeah, I'm definitely careful these days and pay attention to what people have to say prior to release. So hopefully more people will be that way, because I'd love to see studios and publishers, investors really slow down and let these games breathe and end up where they need to be before they hit the shelves, the digital shelves, I should say.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're all guilty of buying games right when they launch, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It's sort of just the risk you take. I've said that before on this podcast, and I know I have.
It's hard to resist hype, man. When it's a big release that people have high expectations for, it's hard to resist. It's one thing if it's like the next Madden or something. I know I'm sure people lose their minds for Madden. There's at least a few people out there, but like any third-party release that doesn't have a lot of hype around it, that's one thing. But when it's a big first-party release, I totally understand the hype and excitement. So, yeah, just really, really weird industry these days. And thankfully, the two big competitors, Nintendo and Sony, are in a good place with their IP sales and everything. Xbox obviously has some work to do, but the broken games is really just an unfortunate issue these days, and really hope that changes in the near future, because it's starting to get really annoying.
Hey, I'm just saying, you guys are going to be playing Zelda on Friday, and it's going to be a buggy mess. You're going to be like stuck in the tutorial to be a huge
have the worst weekend ever.
And I'll just be sitting back, soaking up all the tears.
Yeah, the tears of the kingdom. That's why it's titled that. You've seen the future.
Just me sitting up on the throne.
Jacob drinking the tears of the kingdom. Well, all that said, Fribes wrote in, and this kind of is in line with what we were talking about. He says, do you think that consoles will ever die? Do you think it will come in the form of widespread PCs or in game streaming? Stay spicy. Fribe, same to you, brother. I don't think consoles will die, at least in the very near future, because you look at, obviously, I mean, numbers are one thing between Switch, PS5, PS4. I mean, they're all selling like crazy still. And so long as there are great first-party exclusives landing on all these consoles, I think consoles will be around seemingly forever. But PCs are so different. The builds are even my PC or PC Press's PC are completely different from each other. Similar aspects, of course, but completely different. And because of that, look at all the buggy releases on PC, not just even the last couple of years, even before that. So because of that, unless PC just starts nailing every single release from every single studio, and PlayStation games, Nintendo games start releasing on PC simultaneously, kind of like what Xbox doing, I can't see consoles going anywhere anytime soon. Personally, what do you think?
I think TVs and computers would become more of the same thing before consoles went away, if that makes sense. I think a console is just going to turn into a PC eventually. And maybe, like, I haven't really thought this all the way through, but so a console is basically already a PC to some degree. Obviously, it doesn't have as many nicks and nabs and bobs and doohickeys as a PC does.
All the bells and whistles.
Thank you. That was the phrase I was going for, but it kind of came out in those other words.
We say the doodads and boobobs.
That's a bunch of garbage.
Preston's PC has a lot of doodads and boobobs and bells and whistles.
Doohickeys.
The doohickeys. That was actually going to be one of my gamer tags at one point. Was Donald Doohickey.
Oh yeah.
My top 3 were Harold Bucksworth, Donald Doohickey, and Alistair Shaft. I landed on Alistair Shaft.
I forgot what I was talking about.
Doodads and boobobs.
Oh yeah. I think slowly, obviously, consoles have become a little more PC-like, and you might eventually just be buying a cheaper tower to. I mean, maybe console prices will go up even more with both inflation and then the power of them. I don't know. It's hard to say. I really don't know what the future holds. All I know is I got a PC, and that's all I need. You know.
Yeah, I love playing games on PC as well. I also love the console experience. I think PS5 is awesome. Everything I played on it, obviously first party, but even third party stuff like Jedi has been great on like a bigger display. I love the DualSense features. There's a lot to love about PS5. So, I think consoles are going to stick around for quite a while. Fries, thanks for writing in. That brings us to AskIOG. AskIOG is the part of the show where we answer your questions submitted through any of our social media at ItsObviousGaming, the AskIOG section of our Discord channel, or emailed to us at itsobviousgaming@gmail.com, and always include the hashtag AskIOG if you want your question read live on the show. First one comes from Edward Richards. It says, "Afternoon, guys. I'm making my way through the States in July, and I'll be heading to Atlanta. Just wondering if you had any suggestions or must-do whilst I'm there. Got the baseball and NASCAR books so far. Sorry it's not a gaming question, but oh well. Cheerio and thank you. Hope you're well."
Cheerio.
Edward Richards sounds like a British name or an English name. I hope you are, because Cheerio would make sense. And Edward Richards is a very strong English name. Maybe you're from like Wisconsin and you're going to tour the States from Wisconsin. It says you're making your way through the States. I'm assuming you're from across the pond. That said, things to do in Atlanta. Man, there's a lot to do in the city. It's mostly known for its food. So many good restaurants, depending on the genre you're feeling for food.
Genre.
But must do while you're here. What would you suggest, Jacob?
I don't know. I haven't been here as long as you. You said Braves. That's probably the number one thing for me. Or going to something in Mercedes-Benz. I think it's a cool place to go. If I was not from Atlanta, I'd probably check out the World of Coke. Yeah, it's worth going to. It's pretty fun. Maybe go to an aquarium trip if you've never been to an aquarium.
Yeah, there are a lot of big main touristy spots that are fun, despite them being known for touristy spots. Like the aquarium is cool. Granted, I haven't been since the week it opened when I was in 8th grade or 9th grade. So very long time, but the aquarium is awesome.
I think Centennial Park's really cool.
Yeah, World of Coke is fun. So those are two like really big touristy spots that are a good time. Yeah, you can't go wrong with going to like Atlanta United game, or I guess this summer is Atlanta United playing this summer? I don't keep up with soccer as much.
Yeah, they'll still be playing.
Yeah, if you can go to Atlanta United game at Mercedes-Benz, that's always fun. They have fan-friendly prices as well, which is a major plus. You can get snacks and merch for practically nothing there, which is great.
I've been to 2 games now, and it's very fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's the best place to go see a soccer game in the States.
For sure. Yeah, what else would be cool? We have a restaurant question later in the episode related to Atlanta that I'll answer there, but there are a lot of good restaurants I'll mention later. But I'm trying to think of one other fun thing. Piedmont Park is pretty cool. It's fun to walk around Piedmont Park. The Beltline can also be fun. There's a lot of restaurants and bars you could visit on the Beltline. Anything I'm overlooking? You'll definitely enjoy Atlanta's traffic, I'm sure, to some degree. It's impossible to avoid. Classic quote is that Atlanta is an hour away from Atlanta.
PTSD from earlier today.
Yeah, it's hardcore. Anything in downtown? Not necessarily. Midtown. The High Museum, if you like going to art museums, the High Museum's pretty cool. That's probably the biggest ones I can think of. I mean, the city itself has a lot of unique neighborhoods that are all very distinct, that are fun to visit just for like the culture and especially the food, like I mentioned. But that's kind of just, if you're wandering, you can stumble upon some interesting things inevitably. But there's a lot to like about this city. I would leave tomorrow if it made sense, but I do like Atlanta. I've been here long enough to like, I get it. So I would go somewhere else tomorrow if I could. But there's a lot to love, and I hope you enjoy your time here. So yeah, and hit us up too when you're in town. Maybe Jacob and I can hang one day. So yeah, thanks for writing in, man. Cheerio. Big Colt writes in. Big Colt. Says, I'm trying to travel more this year. Give me the top 3 places you would eat in Atlanta while in town. Also, Jacob, wow, I listened to the last episode, and that's a lot of anime you've been watching lately. Thanks, I got a show suggestion for you. Check out How You Gone. One of my favorites. Animation is beautiful. The full name is How You Gone. Oh, I get it. How You Gone. How You Gone Get Laid when you're watching so much anime. That's what he suggests you watch.
I gotta check that one out, man. I bet that one's good.
The animation's beautiful, apparently.
I love good animation.
Same, dude. It sounds really intriguing premise, too.
It really keeps me inside.
I'm assuming How You Gun is the lead character. So, How You Gon Get Laid. So,
no, I haven't heard of that
so
one.
much anime.
I bet that.
Yeah, I really appreciated the suggestion, Big Cold. I'm probably gonna take a look at that myself. It'll probably be a new show for me because I've only been watching Attack on Titan, and I won't be watching that again until the fall. So, I actually just canceled my Crunchyroll until Attack on Titan comes back again.
What? You're missing out on so much.
I have too many shows and movies to watch. What I've been doing the last year, Jacob, is at least once a week, if not more, I watch a movie I've never seen.
Why?
Because I love movies, and obviously I work in a realm of filmmaking, not like full blown like feature filmmaking, but working in that world, I always want new inspiration. I want a strong knowledge of a variety of films and styles and editing. I watch it for editing. I watch it for production design, for lighting, cinematography, writing. There's so many aspects about film I just love to consume, and just the enjoyment of watching movies. So,
okay, that's a good answer.
That's usually what's keep preventing me from watching more anime.
I'll accept that.
So, How You Gonna Get Laid, though, is definitely gonna be on my list.
You're missing a lot of good shows, though.
Top 3 places you would eat in Atlanta. This is off the top of the dome. There are many, many, many good ones, so it's hard to nail it down. If you want barbecue, go to Fox Bros Barbecue, best in town by far. There are several barbecue places that suck in comparison. They may be decent, but compared to Fox Bros, it's night and day. Fox Bros is king of barbecue. If you want pizza, my top 2 are, and there's a lot of great pizza places too. Antico, Neapolitan style brick oven pizza is probably number 1 if you like Neapolitan style. That's amazing. Second would be Lloyd's. Jacob and I have been really loving Lloyd's lately. A completely different style of pizza, but also delicious. It's like a dive bar-ish type place. Really cool vibe, fun staff, just really fun to go there. And so right down the street from Jacob and I. So also hit us up if you're in town. We'd love to get some pizza or something with you.
100%.
Tacos.
I would go out Lloyd's with anybody.
Yeah, several good places for tacos. I think Super Rica is probably a national chain now, but if you haven't been to Super Rica before, Super Rica is awesome for tacos. What's another? Oh, breakfast, dude. There's dozens of amazing breakfast places. I'm going to give you 2 that I love. I think Buttermilk Kitchen is the best breakfast food in Atlanta by far. Even their menu beyond breakfast is amazing. It's just almost unbeatable, just the quality of food at Buttermilk Kitchen. But another really fun place that I love, I've taken Jacob to, just for the environment, the setting, and also the food is really good, is Java Jive. It is across from the Claremont Hotel in Midtown in Atlanta. Awesome place. They play like big band music quietly. It kind of feels like stepping into the 50s, and kind of has like a Fallout vibe to it as well. Very fun place. But there's a dozen good breakfast places. What's other one genre I'm forgetting? Oh yeah, burgers. Top 2 for me. Several good burger places as well would be, a lot of people from Atlanta would say this, that say that's too mainstream, but Vortex is really good. Highly recommend Vortex. Second would be Grindhouse Killer Burgers, and that kind of flows into a burger question we have later too with Sam Harris. So those are 2 burger places I'd recommend. Chinese, A lot of good places. If you like dumplings, I recommend Goose Dumplings on Croc Street. They have award-winning dumplings. They're phenomenal. If you like dumplings, they have a great menu as well, but the dumplings are king there. Am I forgetting anything big, Jacob? Genre-wise?
What about like sushi or ramen?
Okay, I think the best ramen I've had in town is at Pond City Market. The ramen place there is really good, but there are other places that are really good. The ramen place in Pond City Market is good. If you want Italian, fun Italian place, dude, if you like Italian place, go to Amore Amore in Inman Park. Outstanding. And it's outstanding for many reasons. The food is very high quality. It's great. But it's fun because it's always themed differently. Every other month they change the theme. Like recently it was Harry Potter themed, so it's decorated like Hogwarts. That's awesome. But the owners are I think they're probably in their 60s or 70s, but the wife is from Brooklyn and the husband's from some part of Italy, and they walk around to every table every night and like meet everyone who's eating there and like have a conversation with you. Sometimes they'll like take stuff off your check. And the service there is amazing, and they always do dance parties too. Like you're in the middle of eating, and just like all of a sudden the place just starts going crazy with the dance party. So it's just every time you go, it's really expensive. I won't lie, but if you go for like a birthday or like an anniversary, it is so much fun. Sushi, Umi is really good. Several good sushi places. There are a bunch of good poke places. What else is good?
Donuts.
If you like Philly cheesesteak, I'll get to the donuts. Philly cheesesteak is, I know this is crazy to say that Atlanta has good Philly cheesesteak, but a place that is beloved for their Philly cheesesteak is, why am I blanking on so many things tonight, Jacob? I got to look it up right now. This is important. Gosh, why can't I remember? Cheesesteak place in Atlanta. It's right next to Piedmont Park. I go there as often as I can. No, it's not Big Dave's. Where is it?
Big Dave's.
Why can't I remember? I used to go there all the time. I pass by it almost every other day, too.
I guess it's not that good.
Woody's Cheesesteaks, directly across from Piedmont Park, is fantastic.
Oh, Woody's. Well, I walked by this place.
Yeah. I could recommend a bunch of fun bars, too. But am I forgetting anything, Jacob?
Donuts.
Oh, donuts. Okay. This thing about donuts, dude, I'm always going to live and die by Krispy Kreme donuts.
Shaq moved his out of the city, okay?
No, they rebuilt it. Remember, it's going to open again soon.
I didn't know they rebuilt it.
Yeah, this is the second time they rebuilt it because of 2 arson attacks, dude. I'm telling you, whoever worked there was pissed off by someone and they burned it to the ground twice. So,
not the Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme, I would say. There's a place called Revolution Donuts in the city that I think is extremely overrated. Don't get me wrong. Good donuts. Like, I'll eat any kind of donut, but to me, it's just like bread with sugar on top. It just tastes like I'm eating a loaf of bread with sugar on it. But it's fun to go there and get like a variety of like crazy donuts they have there. But I would always recommend Krispy Kreme over it. There's got to be something I'm forgetting, Jacob. I'm going to be so mad if I forgot.
We can stop.
Something.
It's okay.
Okay. I know I went way over top 3, but maybe this you could save this episode and refer to it later. Or just hit us up on Discord and we'll remind you.
Yeah, listen, Garrett, if you remember something that you just were so upset that you didn't remember to say,
let's all go to Lloyd's Pizza. Let's all go to Lloyd's Pizza together. You, me, Big Colt, Edward. Maybe Sam Harris will come back to town.
Let's
see. Yeah, Big Colt, hit us up.
I'm here. Like, I'm just down the street.
Yeah, and Jacob and I live real close to each other. Thanks for writing in, man. And thanks for the anime suggestion as well.
Yes. I'll let you know how I feel about that one.
Christopher Callahan from the Empty Promise podcast writes in and says, please pick up to 3 foods. We got a lot of food questions on this one. I guess we're kind of known for food questions. We had a lot of great food discussions on this podcast over the years. 3 foods from video games which you guys think would be great to have in this world. I have a poor memory with food and video games, but anything I see in anime always looks delicious. I know that's not a video game, but I will say this. This isn't the best answer, but in Persona 5, a game I will likely never finish, anytime I made like ramen or one more thing, Big Cold, I got to come back. I just remembered something. If you like pho, there's a pho place, also a chain, but it's really good. There's a more local spot that's original that's great too. I can't remember the name of it. I'll look it up and find out, but there's a place called Viet Vana that's outstanding. I think they're also national, but that place is great if you like pho. Anyway, Three foods. When I was in Persona 5, if I ever made ramen or coffee, I immediately wanted to make coffee or ramen in real life. And that's why I told you my conundrum with that game was is that I felt like I was living a parallel life in that game. I was like, I could be doing all these things in real life. I could be exercising. I could be making real coffee. I could be going to get ramen. I could be hanging out with my real friends instead of doing it in this virtual world. It really messed with me mentally, and I couldn't finish it because of that. I also just can't get into turn-based combat. No matter what style it is, I just can't get into it.
Yeah, clearly you've never played a Pokemon game.
Yeah, so it's never been for me. But if these were my last words, if I were to die of a heart attack or like a plane crashed in my window right now, I want you to know, I think Persona 5 is a masterpiece of a game. I've played more than half of it. I just know I'll probably never finish it.
I don't believe you.
So
you're a fraud.
I think everything about it is excellent. It's just the turn-based
combat. Not good enough to finish, huh?
And the life aspects really mess with me, so I probably won't go back to it. That being said, I will inevitably buy Persona 6 and hopefully 6 times the charm for me. But fat chance.
Don't say that as if you've tried them all.
I tried 4 and 5, so we'll see.
Persona 5's a great game. I don't care what you say.
It is a great game. It's an amazing game.
And it's worth
I still
finishing.
Listen to the soundtrack all the time.
I beat it twice.
That's impressive, dude.
What's the original, the other Royal?
I told you, I'll never forget when I was running sound at Smithsville Bar. There was one night, it was a packed house for some really bad cover band. And we were in between sets. And I was like, I'm just going to play Life Will Change, the instrumental version of Life Will Change for Persona 5, and just crank it while I'm changing the stage over. And I played that song, dude. People lost their minds. I think more than half of them had no idea what it was, but it turned into a party in that room, dude. I was like, that's the power of Persona's music. So, never forget that.
Great soundtrack.
Top 3 food from video games. What would you say for you, Jacob? I can't really think of any specific food.
I probably just chug 3 Nuka-Colas.
That's a good one. I'd take a Nuka-Cola. I still have a Nuka-Cola Quantum in my closet buried somewhere that Preston and I went to Target for when Fallout 4 released.
Quantums are the blue ones, right?
Yeah. I used to have a light for it, too, that would go underneath it, a battery-powered light that make it glow like it does in the game. It's pretty cool. It's a cool ambient light at night.
It's pretty cool.
I wonder what that would taste like now.
I think my next one would be the Viper from Resident Evil 4.
Dude, I always think about how funny that is when I'm like completely out of healing sprays or herbs. I'm like, I'm just gonna like devour this snake.
Yeah, I'm looking for every opportunity to get my full health back, and if I just have a little chunk left and I have a snake in my bag, I'm just go
for the Viper or one of the eggs. Yeah. You imagine just Ashley watching Leon hunched over in a corner, like eating a snake raw. And slurping down its tail and then like eating a whole egg shell and all and just devouring it. And it's like the blood and yolk all over him. She's like, Leon! He's like, relax, Ash. Fall back. So, yeah, the Viper's a good one, dude. I think any creative dish you can make in Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and now Tears of the Kingdom, some of those look pretty good.
I can't remember the names of it. That little jingle's coming back to me when you cook something.
Yeah, and I love the way the food cooks and the animation of it popping up is fun.
Yeah. What else?
What's a big one we're forgetting, dude? There's probably like Brahmin steak from Fallout. Something like that. Iguana on a stick, whatever it is.
Oh, so the food that I eat in WoW right now, it's called like a fortune cookie. And you heard of a fortune cookie, Garrett?
I have in real life.
Yeah, well, it's basically the same idea. It's crazy.
Okay. Does it give you a fortune when you eat it?
Yes. So you eat it, you get your critical strike buff, and then you get a little fortune that goes in your bag, and you can read it.
Here's a question, Jacob. Do you think those fortunes were written by actual writers or AI?
I don't know. Probably writers, because there's like 5 of them, and then they're all the same.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if they're random every time, I would.
Yeah, no.
I would bet that it's AI.
They actually really suck. None of them are funny.
Maybe it is AI. ChatGPT doing the fortunes in World of Warcraft.
Oh, dude, you reminded me. So on every Blizzard post now, or like so Wowhead is a site that covers Blizzard or World of Warcraft news, and so they tweet out like anything new that's happening. And there's this Twitter account called like AI WoW responses or WoW replies or something, and it's an automated. It's an AI that responds to every one of those tweets, but it's like taken in all of the feedback of the community over all the years, so it's like built up a personality. And every time they post something, it like responds in this sarcastic, like demeaning way about how they're not doing a good job about developing the game. And it's the funniest thing to me. I'll just show you some examples.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
It's all like the AI is just shitting on Blizzard every tweet. And it gets tons of retweets and likes. It's so funny.
Yeah.
That's what that made me think of, though.
That meme I sent you recently made me laugh, of Harry Potter and Tom Riddle's diary. He writes, "I'm Harry Potter." And it's like, "Hello, Harry, I'm ChatGPT." that really got me. It's exactly what the first time I saw ChatGPT in action was with a coworker, and it blew my mind. It felt exactly like Tom Riddle's diary. So I can't really think of any other food, but I'm bound to see some delicious dishes and Tears of the Kingdom this weekend. Yeah, I'm going to tell you a quick random story, Jacob, before I forget. It has to do with fecal matter. So, right. I was working at a cancer clinic over the weekend in Tampa, Florida, filming some stuff, and we met a lady who operates the machine that cleanses your colon. And it actually is an operation that sounds amazing to me that I'd like to have done at some point. And the way she described it, like, made me want it done immediately. Like, man, do you mind just like siphoning out my sphincter right now, is what I wanted to ask her. But what was interesting about this lady is that she was a clown, a literal clown for 30 years in a traveling circus. And before she was doing this. And pretty old lady, but very sharp and very witty and funny, and which makes sense because she was a clown. But she has this poop puppet that she'll put in her hand when people are really stressed out when they come in there, because it's kind of like it's a very invasive procedure that isn't necessarily painful. It's just kind of frightening for people the first time. And I get it. It's sticking this tube up your ass and washing out your colon. All the shit's getting siphoned out of it.
I think that seems like it would feel pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to. So she takes out the poop puppet and she demonstrated for us. She used to be I always struggle with this word, ventriloquist. So the puppet's mouth was moving the poop puppet, but her mouth was not moving, and having a full-blown conversation with us, which astounded me. That's one thing. She said she'll also surprise people and put on her clown nose sometimes. And I thought that was hilarious, that this lady just had this fascinating life of being a circus clown and now was cleaning out people's colons. And,
if this lady put a clown nose on in front of me, I don't know what I would do. I would not be laughing, though.
Yeah. You can imagine, like, you're getting just this suctioned out of you in this machine, this giant tube in your ass, and you turn around and this woman has a poop puppet in her hand and a clown nose in the other.
Like, what are you doing?
Absolute nightmare. She said that the doctor at the clinic, I think it's mostly a joke between them, tells her, he's like always like, don't do the clown thing. Don't do the clown thing. You're going to scare people. But she said one of the last comments she made that I thought was hilarious is that she said people will pour out their souls to you while you're doing this. And I'm like, well, that makes sense, because you think about people are pretty open when they're getting a haircut with their hairdresser. I can only imagine how open they are when you're sticking a tube up their butt and siphoning out poop.
So, doesn't get any more personal than that.
Yeah, that's as intimate as it gets with a procedure. So I thought that was funny. But anyway, I was telling that story to Zach. I was like, she's kind of like the poop clown. And Zach's like, dude, that is an amazing gamer tag. And I was like, the poop clown would be really good. So if I ever change my gamer tag, I think poop clown would be pretty good. So that randomly came to mind for some reason.
Thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah. Just wanted you to know, and everyone else out there. Anyway, Chris, thanks for writing in, man. Hukimato writes in and says, "Hello, bye. If you were to develop a new competitor in the home console market, what would you do different from the current consoles to make it attractive specifically to yourself? And do you think it would be successful? Love from Portugal." Man, if I could just take a beast PC and, I mean, there's nothing stopping me. I could have my current PC run an HDMI to my TV and use a controller if I wanted to. But for console, I really don't have many complaints, because I'm not like dissatisfied with PS5 at all. If I could just have, actually, here's my one request in a console form that I do think eventually we'll get, just obviously not this generation, unless by some miracle the rumored PS5 Pro will do this. It's native 4K resolution, locked 60 to 120 FPS, minimal bugs. Really just native resolution, strong frame rates that are consistent is like my biggest hope. And that's the thing, games look gorgeous, and even checkerbox and upscaled 4K resolutions, they still look great, but native, you can always tell a distinct difference between native and upscaled. So I think just native 4K resolution, I'm thinking near future as well, native 4K, if not even higher, and just really strong performance is all I can really ask for in a console game. Is that real? I really can't ask for anything much more than that, and just great exclusives. That's the best case scenario for me. Thankfully, PlayStation is pretty close to that. What about you, Jacob? How would you compete? I know I'm kind of just like riffing on PlayStation, but what would you do differently?
Yeah, you took the obvious one, so I'll do a better one. So I think I would make something called a PC, and then I'd hook it up to the TV. I'd call it PC.
You're really married to that PC, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What do you play on your PC? WoW? That's about it?
Yeah.
The WoW machine.
Second idea. I would make a console called the Activision Blizzard console. It would only play Call of Duty and Blizzard games. Oh, and Bejeweled. No, that's the wrong game. Candy Crush.
Candy Crush, yeah. That sounds like a dream, dude.
Yep. And all of your currency goes between all the games.
Yeah. Another thing I would like is remote play for my console that has very strong performance as well. Kind of like what the Steam Deck's doing, what hopefully the new version of the Switch or next Nintendo hardware will do, where you can travel and it's also just a phenomenal, strong technical experience.
Yes.
But I know there's rumors of PlayStation having remote play with it sounds so stupid. I don't know why they would do this, but remote play where you have to be connected to the internet and your PlayStation 5 has to be on at your house, regardless of where you're at. So if you're like in New York and your PS5's in Mississippi, your PS5 has to turn on at home and then you can remote play it to your device and it's just streaming to your device, which doesn't sound nearly as cool to me. I'm like, why even waste your time with something like that? If the Switch exists, why even do that? Either make a brand new handheld or make a true device that is basically a piece of your PS5 that goes with you. I don't know. It's a PC for you then, huh?
Yeah. Third idea. I held up a 2 for 3. Third idea. What was my third idea? Oh, well, can't remember it. I had a third idea, but it's gone now.
Okay, let me know if it comes back to you. You already had dinner, didn't you?
I remember.
What?
Third idea. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelers console.
Okay, we'll have the arm blade.
It comes with the dual disc arm blade.
And it has like 6 cables running out of it, like like those RC cables, the colored ones that run to your TV. There's only 6 feet of cable, so you have to stand like right next to your TV.
Yeah, the extension's it's an add-on. You got to buy it.
Yeah, you also have to wear a VR helmet as well while you do this.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect. Okay. That's a good idea. We'll do that.
Yeah.
You can only play that game
as well.
Yeah, you only play Yu-Gi-Oh. That's it.
The Yu-Gi-Oh. What would be the actual name of it? The Yu-Gi-Go, maybe?
Yu-Gi-Go.
Like you can take it on the go? Maybe there's like a pop-up screen on the arm blade?
No.
It's not my best title. We should call up Zach for this. Zach would have a good answer.
Does he know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh?
I don't think so. Let me give him a call real quick and see if he answers. Call Zach.
Do a phone call on air?
We've done this before. I think that's a pretty good idea, Jacob. Maybe something similar for Pokemon. He likely won't pick up this late. But the reason I'm calling Zach is because he has a gift for naming things and marketing things. This is looking like a no-go from Zach. But Jacob, I think we've had some good ideas, and I feel comfortable leaving it at that.
I do too.
You said you already had dinner, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking forward to dinner myself.
You haven't had dinner yet?
No, I finished working out and had a protein shake right before we started recording.
Oh my goodness.
So that's holding me over to now.
Oh my goodness.
Zach said, he texted me, "Hello, sir." He will call me back if I tell him we're recording. Let's see.
No. Tell him we don't want him anymore.
I'm calling and he's going to call me in the next 2 minutes. Sam Harris writes in and says, wait, I missed one. Oh, Hukimato. He says, "Love from Portugal. Thank you so much for writing in, man. It always blows my mind when we hear from people from outside of the U.S. It's awesome. Thanks for the support." Sam Harris writes in and says, "Boys, what's happening? I hope y'all are doing well. I'm so glad y'all are making time to record more. Anyway, here's my question. What's your ideal burger? It must contain the following: a bun, a beef burger, some kind of condiment, a cheese. If you like the cheese on your burger, and any other toppings. And as a bonus, what are you pairing this delectable delicacy with? And go in detail on why. In your opinion, what is the best burger? Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Also, as an extra bonus question, best fast food burger, best casual dining burger, and best fine dining burger. Hope you all have a fantastic week. Love you guys. Sam Harris, this one's really fun, man. Thanks for writing in.
Sam always likes to write in and make you do work. You know that?
I appreciate that. I mean, it takes work to write a question like that. Okay, your ultimate burger is the first question.
So, you're asking me?
Yeah. What would you like on your it has to be beef.
I have two.
With or without cheese. Okay, let's hear it.
Gotta do two?
Yeah.
Okay, so number one is traditional beef burger with yellow American cheese, cheddar cheese, I guess it is. Onions, just regular raw onions, lettuce, tomato, ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise.
Classic.
I like burgers fully loaded.
Respect.
And pickle. Can't forget the pickle. I almost did.
Yeah.
Second option is a little more something that I've kind of customized over the years. And this is still a beef burger, but with Swiss cheese, a fried egg.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. Now we're talking.
Hot sauce on both sides of the bun, or each bun. That's
dude.
Enclosed, and jalapenos, just a couple on the bottom.
Man, Jacob,
it's a good ass sandwich, man.
I'm gonna get burgers with you right now.
I started making that like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I looked in my fridge and pantry and just threw a bunch of stuff together, and it turned out really freaking good.
I love that. Feel free to invite me over for burger night next time.
Dude, yeah. I eat a lot of burgers.
I'll bring some treats with me. I won't come in empty-handed. Man, I really love all kinds of burgers. I also like a traditional style burger like Jacob described. I'd probably go double-decker on that. I like buns that are similar to potato buns, but they're very soft.
Yeah.
I'm cool with or without sesame seed, but I like a traditional burger exactly like you described. I like, of course, melted cheese as well is a big plus for me.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard for a burger, but love some good melty cheese. I also the reason I recommended Grindhouse earlier is because they have a variety of really interesting burgers. Let me read some of these burgers to you real quick.
That's why I like Vortex too.
Yeah. Vortex has a ton of variety as well, but I love a burger with a fried egg on it as well.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
I think it's called like the coronary bypass at Vortex or something.
But that burger I just described though, it started out as just Swiss cheese burger and hot sauce, and I customized it more as I went on.
Dude, I'll kind of like Frank's slogan, dude. I will put hot sauce in almost anything. Eat it every day.
The reason I don't put hot sauce on a regular burger is because I have so many other things on there.
Yeah. So here are a few burger options at Grindhouse that are interesting. So they have Apache style. It's pepper jack cheese, green chilies, lettuce, grilled onions, tortilla strips. You got cowboy style. Cheddar cheese, applewood bacon, crispy Vidalia. I haven't seen that word before. Vidalia onion ring. So it's an onion ring, fried onion ring, barbecue sauce. Dixie style, pimento cheese, fried green tomato, Carolina coleslaw, chipotle ranch. Gringo style, black bean spread, pico de gallo, avocado, jalapenos, Diablo sauce. Hillbilly style, pimento cheese, jalapenos, Texas style chili, sliced red onion. Euro style, Swiss cheese, sauteed mushrooms, lettuce, mustard, mayonnaise, and Yankee style, blue cheese, applewood bacon, grilled onions, mixed greens. You got a lot of variety there on that menu, but I've tried all of them. They're great. And I'm not too picky with burgers, man. I love creativity with burgers because you can really make it a variety of different ways. And I say a third burger place I'd really throw in there is Sam's of San Francisco. That's a crazy name for a burger place. But it's all the way in Midtown. It's kind of out of the way, unfortunately, in Atlanta. But if you can make the time, Sam's of San Francisco is also an amazing burger place.
I thought you were saying that it was in San Francisco.
No, originally it was. And Anthony Bourdain visited them a couple of times when he was still alive. And obviously when he's still alive. But Anthony Bourdain went there and had 3 favorites. They made a unique menu within their menu that's dedicated to him if it's 3 favorites. And I've tried all 3 of those and they're great.
That's cool.
So really good spot. So Sam's next part of his question was, what are you pairing this delectable delicacy with? And go into detail on why.
Fries.
Fries.
Like me some fries.
I love all kinds of fries, dude. Love fries. Of course, fries. This is also kind of a weird one, but I love fried okra as well. I wouldn't mind a little fried okra with my burger.
Okay.
But dude, one of my favorite things to do is with a big basket of fries in addition to a burger. I like to get as many sauces as I can. And at Grindhouse, they don't do this anymore. You got to ask for it. They used to have all these bottles of sauces on the table. They had A1, mustard, ketchup, of course, multiple hot sauces. They have all their original sauces as well, like the Grindhouse sauce is really good. But I put
A1 on everything.
Yeah, I would get like 6 or 7 cups of sauce, and every fry would have be a different bite because I'm dipping it in a different sauce. I'm a big sauce guy. You could say I'm a saucy man, Jacob. Saucy for you, at least.
Thank you.
But yeah, give me some great dipping sauces, man. I'm happy with fries with my burger. So,
do you ever use A1 sauce?
Like Cajun seasoning on fries. I love any kind of seasoning. I love seasoning on pretty much anything if it's good. But seasoned fries are also awesome.
True.
Man, I want Grindhouse so bad now that we've been talking about burgers.
Go, you coward.
I think they're closed now. It says, can't wait to hear your thoughts. Oh, extra bonus question. Best fast food burger after you, Jacob. This is tough, dude. It depends on my mood.
I don't have one.
Man, I think I do. Let me think.
I don't eat enough fast food burgers. I guess Wendy's for me, or no, Burger King. Burger King.
Burger King is your answer?
Yeah,
that is wild, dude.
What?
Don't get me wrong, Burger King's good. I'm just surprised at your answer.
Why?
I feel like most people I know wouldn't pick Burger King first.
Actually, Five Guys.
Yeah, dude, Five Guys for sure for me.
I forgot about them.
Five Guys is probably the best. I will say honorable mentions are In-N-Out is good. Granted, I've had In-N-Out 3 times in my life, so it's probably easy for me to say that, but In-N-Out is good. Wendy's is great, dude. I haven't had a Wendy's burger in a while, but I do like Wendy's.
They're fine. Better than McDonald's.
Can't go wrong with a double quarter pounder or a Big Mac, of course, from McDonald's. When it's made well, dude, it's made with love. It's pretty good.
I'm not crazy about McDonald's burgers. The Big Mac is usually pretty good, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like you can get a better burger somewhere.
Yeah, am I forgetting something? I think Shake Shack's okay.
If I'm going to McDonald's, it's because of the fries. At the end of the day.
Of course, a large fry and a Coke, dude, is a banger combination.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd probably go Five Guys. Number 1 for me.
There's just something about a Five Guys burger. Like, they taste so much more like a burger than all the other fast food places.
You get a lot of bang for your buck, too. You really get your money's worth at Five Guys. And they just give you an asinine amount of fries, too, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I don't know who told me this. Burger.
I don't know who told me this, but apparently, like, they give you so many fries because they overcharge you on the burger so much. So they still don't lose any money by the amount of fries they give you. That's just what I've heard. So they're not really losing money by throwing away all those potatoes.
Makes sense.
And I think they have a big, like, deal with a big potato company. And they just get so many potatoes.
Man, there was a place in, I think it was Minneapolis when we were on a trip last year that was known for their burgers. It was a dive bar, but they were known for their burgers, weirdly enough. And it was awesome. I just can't remember the name of the place. I'll, of course, remember it while editing. But there have been restaurants all over the country I've had great burgers that I just can't remember the names of that I would say could potentially be the best casual dining experience for a burger. But in Atlanta, I'd say casual dining would either be Grindhouse or Vortex, probably. But there are other good spots. I just can't remember the names of them. You got any particular places, Jacob, for casual dining?
Not really, no. Not around here.
Yeah, I can't really think of a fine dining burger either, because whenever I'm doing fine dining, I rarely will get a burger. I'm not ashamed to get a burger at a fine dining establishment, but I usually don't.
Yeah. So I don't eat it out enough to have good answers for this.
I will say, honorable mention, I think, what's it? Steak and Shake's burgers are pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
I haven't had one in years, but I think they're pretty good.
I used to love their fries so much.
See, I'm not a big fan because their fries are too thin. They're not
I
satisfying
love the
to
thin
me.
fries, dude.
You have to get like a whole handful to get a good hearty
Yeah,
bite.
that's why I like McDonald's though. Like I like thin fries.
See, they're the happy medium. They're not too thin. I think they're just the right amount of girth, you know?
See, I also was someone that liked eating those were they just called straws? They were like the little potato straws in the cans. You remember that?
Maybe.
I think they're just called potato straws, but there was like a can and it was like little thin potato strips. And you would just, I mean, it was like eating, you know, fucking chips, like Lay's chips, but they're like little thin needles.
I think I remember that. Yeah, I think I remember that.
You would recognize them if I showed you a picture.
Well, Sam, that one was in depth, man. We appreciate it. And man, after all this burger talk, I feel like all of us are going to want a burger at some point this week. I know I do.
I need to go to bed. I can't be thinking about all this food.
All right, we're wrapping up here soon. Carlos Perez writes in and says, "What the F is up? Hey, y'all." That wasn't my best one. Hey, y'all.
Thanks, man.
What movie is just a straight up 10 in your opinion? First thing that comes to mind. And go. This is easy. I just rewatched No Country for Old Men. That is an easy 10 out of 10. You ever seen No Country for Old Men, Jacob? Outstanding movie. Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem. What's his name? Dude, my memory is shot tonight. Directed by the Coen brothers. I think it was written by them as well. Tommy Lee Jones is also in the movie. Woody Harrelson's in it.
I like Woody.
So good. I won't spoil it for you. It's on HBO. Do you have HBO Max?
I do.
Watch No Country for Old Men on HBO Max. You will not be sorry.
Is it new?
No. It came out in 2007.
Okay. No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men is a 10 out of 10.
I'll consider it.
Yep.
If I remember. And if I want to.
Yeah. Well, first you got to get to how you gonna get laid watching that much anime first.
Yeah,
you need to
right.
binge that.
Yeah, you're right.
Probably binge it a few times and then watch No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
To cleanse the palate. You have a 10 out of 10 movie, Jacob?
The first one I think of?
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Oh, yeah. That's a 10 for sure.
But that's also based on the telling of 2 other movies. So I would consider the whole trilogy a 10 out of 10.
Agreed.
Let me think.
I have to refer to my letterbox for this. I watch too many movies.
Oh, you're going to have like a list of fucking 20 movies, man.
No, I'm not going to list too many. Don't worry. I think another one for me is Whiplash. Is a 10 out of 10 for me. Personally, though, Whiplash is one of my favorites.
I think I know one on your list.
Speaks to me on a personal level. What?
Dark Knight.
That's a 9 out of 10 for me.
What?
There are some goofs in that movie that still bother me to this day. It doesn't ruin the movie. It's just stuff I notice. I think it's funny. Here's a classic example. Obviously, Lucius Fox knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, clearly. And there's this scene toward the end when, you know, Bruce Wayne sets up that big, all those screens that are monitoring people from across the city and tells Lucius, like, when it's done, destroy it. But he's talking to Lucius the whole time in his Batman voice, like an idiot. And that's when Christian Bale's Batman voice fell off a cliff, was in Dark Knight, and especially in Dark Knight Rises. It just became a meme. He's talking to Lucius Fox in his dumb Batman voice, and Lucius Fox knows it's Bruce Wayne. So I know Lucius Fox like kind of plays the game of like, oh, it's Batman, not Bruce Wayne, just kind of playing along. But you'd think that Christopher Nolan, as the director, would be like, hey, Christian, although, yes, you are in costume right now as Batman, he knows you're Bruce Wayne, so just talk as Bruce Wayne in the costume. That's what I would have done if I was directing that film, but it was clearly overlooked. And it just is goofy to me every time I see it. It's like little things like that. But overall, that is definitely a masterpiece of a film. I think it's the best movie of the trilogy, but my favorite, I think, overall is Batman Begins.
You think there's a better Batman than that movie?
No. I think that is still the best Batman movie overall.
Okay.
But in that trilogy, I think it's the best made film. But I think my personal favorite from that trilogy is Batman Begins.
Batman Begins is good. I'll give you that.
Anything else? 10 out of 10 for you?
I don't know.
Man, I could recommend so many movies.
Maybe like, I don't know, like Lion King?
The original animation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a 10 for me. Maybe. I haven't watched it in
I'm
many
really
years.
digging here. I think Lion King's a perfect movie. Maybe like a comedy. What's the perfect comedy? Like Dumb and Dumber? In my opinion. Maybe it's not a 10 out of 10.
It's a timeless comedy for me.
I'm just trying to think of different genres.
I think RRR came out last year. I gave it 5 stars in Letterboxd. I think that's probably a 10 for me. That movie blew my mind.
Okay.
But all different genres I could recommend a lot. But 10 out of 10s, those are a few for me. You got anything else, Jacob?
If I really sat here, I could probably think.
I mean, Carlos, I want to hear your 10 out of 10 movie. You should have included it.
Yeah, I can't think of it anymore off the dome.
All right, no worries.
Lord of the Rings is my favorite of all time, so that was easy.
The trilogy or Return of the King?
Return of the King in particular. But all of them.
Have I told the story in this podcast of when I watched Two Towers with my dad and how bad I had to pee? And he had to carry me to the restroom?
That's embarrassing.
Yeah. I guess I could reiterate it really quickly. We sat down for Two Towers as obviously a young boy. Already had to pee, and for some reason, we had 20 minutes before the movie started. We got there really early, and I was just afraid to tell my dad I needed to go pee. And I was already dying sitting there. And you know how long Two Towers is. Whole movie plays. I was in severe agony for like the first half, and then my body finally shut down. It was like, you can't deal with this anymore. And just like, I went numb. So for the second half of the movie, I was pretty comfortable because my body went numb. But at the end, I tried to stand up, and my bladder was so full I couldn't stand straight up because I just, like, my bladder was going to explode. It was so full. So I explained to my dad like what the deal was, and he was like, "Why didn't you tell me you needed to pee? I would have taken you at any time." He was like mad that I didn't tell him. He would have taken me at any time in the movie. I had no reason to be afraid to tell my dad that, but I just was for some reason. I also didn't want to miss the movie. So I physically couldn't stand, so we had to carry me to the restroom and place me on a toilet because I had to sit to pee because I couldn't stand up. Probably my personal world record, dude. I think I sat there for over 3 minutes peeing nonstop. It was horrible. And Lord willing, I won't have bladder cancer because of that when I'm older. But
because of that moment.
Yeah, because that fateful moment where I just wouldn't tell my father I needed to pee at Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers. So that whenever I watch Two Towers, I think of that experience. Haunts me to this day. I'm really thinking about it because I got to pee right now too, but not quite as bad as that one. So let's wrap this up with the big finale, Jacob. Carlos, thanks again. Dog on Diet says, if you could go back in time, say 10 years or so, what's the one thing you would tell your younger self? Someone's got to be serious with all these AOs running amok. What would you tell your younger self 10 years ago? So I'm going to be 30 in a couple weeks. So when I was 20.
That's right.
Man, I've had a really interesting...
You say a couple weeks, but I think it's only 1 week.
Whenever the 18th is, 10 days, roughly
yeah,
a week.
10 days.
I was 20, you were 21, right? Yeah. You're turning 31 in July, right?
Yeah.
July 27th. Okay. Man, there's a lot that's happened in both of our 20s.
I would tell myself not to worry so much about my appearance. I would always used to get caught up in like how I looked and looking in the mirror and crap like that, trying to mess with hair and stuff. Now that I'm bald, I have a whole new perspective. So much wasted time, so much stress for something that most people don't even care about. What about you, man?
There are many things. I'm not going to go off on too many tangents, but I'm going to start with these lyrics from The Ghost Inside that have always spoken to me. It's from their album, Dear Youth. It's a song called Move Me. It says, I leave behind this sentiment to the man that I'll become, telling him not to be burdened by the things that I have done. The longest days and endless nights have become the routine. Far beyond frustration, it's the end to all my means. Lyrically, the whole song's really good, but the opening to that really spoke to me at the time it released, and still does to this day in a lot of ways. But this may sound like a strange thing to say. It may sound kind of dark, but I've had a really hard time looking at childhood photos of myself in the last year. And the reason is because I've made a lot of horrible mistakes in my life that have caused me a lot of pain and caused other people pain. Not anything that's been like, how dare you kind of stuff. It's just like really stupid decisions I've made that everyone has like their own stupid decisions they made. But it's just been like, thankfully, painful lessons that were valuable lessons over time that have made me who I am today. But there's a select few paths I chose to walk in my past throughout my 20s that I probably could have done without, unfortunately. That I still probably would have wound up in the same place with a lot less pain from the past.
Baggage.
Yeah. So that said, it's like whenever I see childhood photos of myself, of me like with a goofy ass smile on my face playing with like a toy or something, like my dad sent me a picture of me playing with one of my Bionicles. I used to love those Bionicles when I was a kid. It like almost makes me cry every time I see it, because it's like I look at that little boy and he was like innocent and free of pain, free of like causing others pain and like making stupid decisions. And like I can never go back to that. It's like I only have who I am now, and like that kid has like no idea like what's ahead. Yeah. And thankfully it hasn't been anything that's like ruined my life or made it hard to live or anything. Thank the Lord. Another quick tangent I say is that as a believer, and like I've lived this and know it, because scripture says this, but I've also lived it to testify to it, is that the Lord works all things together for the good of those who love him and for his glory. And in trusting him through a lot of the things I've been through in my life, he's definitely brought me through them, and I'm thankful for that. But yeah, it's just hard for me to look at childhood photos. It makes me just like, it usually either makes my eyes burn or like full on cry sometimes, because I'm like, it's almost like I envy that kid, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a bummer for me to look at childhood photos, and I'm hoping I get past that eventually, but these days it's hard for me to look at that kind of stuff. But 10 years ago, I would probably tell myself to avoid making a lot of the dumb things, or avoid doing the stupid things I've done. So, yeah, just a lot of unnecessary pain that I wish I had not, roads I wish I hadn't gone down. But thankfully, I'm like well beyond all that. I think if you guys have listened long enough, you may remember that season where I was like going through it for a while. And asking guys to like send me, you know, the good vibes and like pray for me and stuff. And that's still very much appreciated. And like a lot of great conversations came out of that from the community. But I'm not depressed. I'm not sad. I'm not an angry person. That season of life came and went, thankfully. There's a lot of struggle through like 4 or 5 years that like really messed with me for a while. And not all of that was totally necessary, unfortunately. So I would tell myself 10 years ago, like, don't do this, don't go there, this, that, and the other, to like avoid those things. And it's like the age old saying, it's like, we are who we are because of the choices we've made, and it's made us who we are today. And the best thing we can hope for is that we learn from those things and carry them forward, especially if we have kids. I know many people tuning in to this podcast have children. I'm sure you can attest to that, of like, and I know Zach's kind of talked to me about this with his kids as well. It's just like lessons you learn and carry into adult life that you can pass down to your children, like either warn them or teach them or guide them based on your own experiences. I know that's been the case for my family and many other families throughout time. So, and even if it isn't like necessarily your own children, but like mentoring someone else or like a close friend or family member that may be going through something similar, that's the best case scenario we can hope for, is that the lessons we've learned from those decisions and those experiences, we can help someone else through similar situations, is the best we can hope for. So that's kind of, I know that's kind of all over the place, but that's roughly what I would tell my younger self 10 years ago. So I'd also say like amazing video games are ahead. You're going to get the Spider-Man game of your dreams. The Harry Potter game you fantasized about since you were a kid is coming out. A lot of great movies. Also a lot of great experiences with friends and family as well, and awesome work opportunities. And I tell myself like the way the Lord's going to work in your life will surprise and astound you, and you're going to love him even more for it, which has been true. So a lot of positive things as well. I kind of focused on the dark side. I think my mind always immediately, whenever I think of the past, I immediately think of the dark stuff first. I think that's just human nature. Yeah, but there have been a lot of wonderful things in my 20s leading up to my 30th year of life as well. So don't want to be all doom and gloom. There's been a lot of great stuff, but that's probably what I'd tell myself. You got anything else, Jacob?
No, I said mine.
Sweet.
So we end on a somber note.
Yeah, well, not entirely, because we're in a good place today. But yeah, thanks for writing in, Dog on a Diet, and everyone else who wrote in. We greatly appreciate all the community questions. Really livened the episode this week, which we're thankful for. And I had a lot of fun, Jacob. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, tonight was fun, man. Thanks for having me on our show.
Well, of course, on our own show. And I know we don't do as hardcore research as we used to. Every now and then we'll like do a deep dive. And like, for example, we could have like pulled exact quotes from Phil Spencer and really done a deep dive on articles and stuff. But it was more of a casual conversation, and we had fun with it. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, we thank you guys for tuning in. All the continued encouragement over the years and even today means a lot to us. And that's what encourages us to carry on. And I love this podcast, and we love you guys. And as always, we wish you guys the best with your week, your day, your month, whenever you're tuning in. We are wishing you the best, and we love you, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Garrett, thank you for having me. Like I said, everyone enjoy Zelda, and I'll talk to you guys soon. See you in the Discord.
Later.